Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to yet another live stream of Formula One Talk. Ladies and gentlemen, as you can see, Mr. Lewis Hamilton, the man himself, look at him. He is the winner here at Qatar. Fantastic scenes. Let me know if you can hear me properly in the chat. The audio doesn't sound too good on my end. I'm not entirely sure if it's just my side, but nonetheless, we are here to talk about Mr. Lewis Hamilton, who wins yet another Grand Prix, ladies and gentlemen. He wins the Qatar Grand Prix, the first ever Qatar Grand Prix in Formula One history. Now, I'll put in the link in the comment section. If you'd like to join the stream, then please do so, as I put the link in there. So feel free to join in. I mean, where do we begin? Where do we begin with this Grand Prix? Lewis Hamilton, phenomenal scenes, phenomenal stuff from him. Honestly, this title race now, 2 races to go. Where do we go from here? Where on earth do we go from here regarding this title race? It is on. It is well and truly on. We've only got 2 races to go. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. If you want to join the stream, as I said, then please do jump on. But we are here. We are live. We are ready. We are off and away. Mr. Lewis Hamilton there. Phenomenal stuff. So, let's get into some of your comments to kick things off with. Man like AMG Dens, as usual, regular listener, regular watcher, who says, what a race, interesting points. Believe me, there are so many points to talk about in this race indeed. He's gone off with a few already himself. Perez starting from 11th was a blessing in disguise. Absolutely. I think if you're a Mercedes fan, I think absolutely he was. And, you know, in terms of just sort of keeping the others at bay, sort of giving Red Bull basically a handicap match, if that makes sense. Mercedes had this game in the bag. Lewis Hamilton, by the way, phenomenal and dominant. Did Mercedes flop by leaving Bottas out for a long time on the mediums? It's hard to tell. Remember, Lewis, when he came in to change for his tires, he asked to stay out longer. I think nobody's quite sure why the medium tire or why the tires in the end were doing 25 plus laps. They were really acting up. So it's very, very difficult to tell. But you know what? Instead of me rambling on, how about I add the man himself? What is happening, my G?
Hey, what's happening, bro? You good?
I'm very, very well, thank you. Can you hear me well, by the way?
Yeah, bro. I literally had you on 2 tabs, so I had to close one down with the.
No, that is all good. That is all well and good. I was just sort of responding to your comment there. First of all, by the way, your thoughts. What did you think on this Qatar Grand Prix? What were your thoughts overall?
Bro, what a race, man. I mean, I wouldn't say it was the best race of the entire season, but definitely up there, just with it being a new track. The last minute penalties with the FIA given to Bottas, and then also Verstappen as well, which caused some further drama off the track with Horner. So
yeah,
probably have to address that at some stage as well.
Of course, yes.
A bit of Nando sauce inside there too in the top 3.
Hey, come on, my guy.
And it was interesting.
My guy.
There was we didn't know what the outcome was going to be, and it surely gave us a lot to think about.
Yes, indeed. I mean, it's one of those where, I didn't know exactly what to expect, what kind of race we were meant to be getting for this weekend. It was very much unknown, and I thought legit it was going to be a bit of a, I don't know, like a bit of a bore fest, because it didn't seem like you could overtake too tough. So it was almost like a Bahrain adjacent kind of circuit, but in the end, we actually got to see some very good overtaking.
Absolutely, man. I mean, just with the straight as well, it looks a lot longer, even than I thought from just my little simulation stuff I did early in the week as well. Shout out that hot lap video. But,
yeah,
it's crazy, man. It's actually a decent circuit, and we saw people being able to take different lines well into the corners, which I think is quite handy with a motorbike style track. So it gave us lots of different considerations.
No, absolutely. I mean, it was one of those where I thought I'd be disappointed that it was a night race, but in the end, I think the night, going from day to night, kind of really flopped the base in terms of people's strategies and whatnot. Nobody knew exactly what to expect. I mean, AlphaTauri, for example, who looked phenomenal yesterday. What on earth happened to them today? I can't put my finger on it. I have no idea. And their worst nightmare is Fernando Alonso getting on the podium. The Alpine scored some good points this weekend.
Absolutely, what a performance as well from Fernando Alonso. I think just spiritually, I think he deserved that third place. Although, of course, I think it was very touch and go as to whether or not that hard tire was going to make it towards the end of the race. And then on top of that as well, Red Bull kind of overreacting in a way and putting Perez to do a two-stop strategy, and even Perez coming onto the radio and saying, "Man, was that the right choice for me? To put me on that second set of tires."
Yeah, I think with them, they would depend. First of all, thank God for the virtual safety car if you're a Fernando Alonso fan, because,
Yep,
who knows if he was going to make it. Yes, it was about 2 or 3 laps to go, but the rate at which he was going, you could not tell whether or not he was actually going to make it in the end. And then with the Perez situation, they went on the basis, their explanation for bringing him in was, look, Mercedes ain't going to make it. By the way, the pace at which they're going at, third place is still up for grabs. And lo and behold, Bottas didn't make it you know so it's one of those where you think, they were half right. Maybe if they just
mm,
stuck it out, they would have actually taken over Bottas's place. But it happened to be Fernando who picked up the spoils. Maybe they didn't even consider the Alpine being a competition, when really they sort of might have looked at it and thought, hang on a minute, there's about 4 laps to go, so we need
of
to
course,
get moving. We need to
of
get
course.
moving.
And it just goes to show you, Happy, like how it seems like they're more fixated on this Mercedes and this the championship fight with them on the circuit than actually
Mm,
they are with the other cars that form the grid too. Because there was no
absolutely.
consideration there for Alonso, as you said. Lando Norris was there too until he
Yes.
also came in on a precautionary vibe as well to
It
make it
turns out
towards
he
the
had
end.
a puncher. It turns out he actually
Wow.
had a puncher. So he had a puncher and he came in. So, Red Bull were correct. That's why I say they were half right. They
Mm,
kind of, you knew what the plan was, but then you didn't really execute it yourselves that well.
true.
So it was it's a bit of a bizarre one. But man, I mean, like you said, there's so many things to get into. I mean, like I said, obviously Hamilton doing what he did, he dominated. Let's talk about his domination, because there was nothing going wrong. This felt like 2017 Hamilton.
Of
Do you know what I
course.
mean? So,
Definitely.
what are your thoughts on Lewis's drive and his whole weekend, really?
Well, Pete, as Nikki would say, I have to take my hat off, man, because honestly, like sensational weekend for
Fair
him.
one.
Clean. It's nice to see that he's finding his form again. It's like him and the W12 are getting that kind of, symmetry together now
Mm.
from practice one. I mean, I know in the first session they were kind of off Red Bull a little bit during the daytime, but then towards the night, the Mercedes seemed to just grow into it, and he seemed really one at the car. Even just looking at his qualifying lap, it was an absolute belter. Since
Yeah,
it was a generational lap, I'd have to say, because
yeah.
he utilized every single inch of the track. The car looked like it was on rails. Just they've really seemed to like found a window for that Mercedes where it's just operating at its maximum potential. And being the goat he is, he's obviously extracting every single bit of performance as well. So it never really looked like he was under threat this weekend.
No, it didn't look like it at all, and it just felt like if Mercedes were going to lose this race, it was down to their own doing.
Of course.
There was nothing. Say, I did think the Red Bull's pace on the day was actually better than I expected. Because I mean, you look at Max's first 2 laps, forget the 5 place grid penalty. You just wipe that out because he kind of dealt with that very, very quickly. But I did think to myself, you know what? Look, what is stopping Lewis between now and the end of the championship?
Yep.
Because it's weird, because a couple of weeks ago I thought after Mexico, Max cannot lose this title. He has to win it.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden I'm sitting here and I'm like, wait a minute, wait, Lewis, like, are you gonna do it? Like, if he's gonna win the 8th title now, bloody hell, what a
What a
season
season.
he's done it.
Comeback. It's a
Oh yeah,
story that I think is going to be told in years to come. Because shout out William for joining us in the chat as well. Just
yes,
it's incredible just how it's been very topsy turvy between the two. There have been tracks where, like for example, the Red Bull have been absolutely dominant, like in Austria when they had the back to backs, and then
yeah.
obviously I think from Silverstone that seemed to be the turning point for Mercedes, where they finally seemed to get some performance of the car with the upgrades that they brought then. And even now, it just seems to be that they're finding this kind of a window with the car. And of
Yeah.
course, they're not ready to give it up yet, which is nice to see that fighting spirit, even with all the focus and facilities going towards next year's cars and the next generation of Formula One.
You know what? We can talk about how great Lewis Hamilton is. We can be here till the cows come home
All
because
day, yeah.
he's that phenomenal, right? We could be here forever. The question I do want to ask you though is who in particular or what part of the department would you say at Mercedes do you really have to give credit to? Because at one stage it was a Red Bull title. This was going that way. What on earth changed? We saw there was new pace. Yes, there was new engines and so on and so forth. But who in the factory do we need to be crediting? What type of department do we need to be crediting where they've pulled something out of the bag?
It's a good question to ask, Pete. And honestly, not to be so cliche with the answer, I think it's all of them. I mean, the main thing you would say is obviously the power unit side. The reliability's been a bit sticky from time to time, with all these grid penalties, we're seeing them, and also the other Mercedes engine powered cars taking. But clearly, they've managed to unlock a new code with the engine, with just the straight line speed. You also have to give credit to the aerodynamicists as well, because the car also seems to be quite competitive. Even some of the more technical high downforce circuits as well that we've seen them go to in the
Yeah,
last couple of, like Spain, for example. And also the chassis department, because we have to take into account that they had the DAS system removed at the beginning of the
yes,
season. So that was
yes.
an extra tool that they were using to finagle the tires and get them into the window. And obviously, to get that performance back, there's a lot of work that needs to go into the suspension, the chassis as well. So the entire team, it really looks like, Pete, that this fight and this kick that Red Bull are giving them is energized the team to work together now and earn their keeps, which is what we want to see in the sport.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like you said, it was a cliche thing to say everybody needs to be credited, but the way you sort of broke down sort of each component and each department that probably has a big role to play. And of course, we can't forget Lewis, by the way, in all of
Of
this as
course,
well, because Toto mentioned earlier today that, at Brazil, they woke up sort of like a lion. They kind of woke up a monster a little bit, where like they were getting hacked with penalties and so on and so forth. We spoke about how Lewis had to overtake 24 cars if you want in total to win the whole weekend. So yeah, it's absolutely phenomenal. What I want to give credit to Mercedes as a whole, because I think for us to be in this position to be still talking about, oh, by the way, the title race is still on, that's taken some doing. It's taken some
crazy.
effort
Crazy,
because
Pete. At the halfway stage, we thought this thing was done. We thought it was wrapped up like Christmas presents. It
yeah,
was, it was all over, and then just somehow, and it's not been that Red Bull have dropped off completely or that there's anything crazy going on. It's
yeah.
just things seem to be a lot more tighter, and it's the finest marginal details which I think will really make the biggest difference in this championship fight.
Absolutely. Big up to the Moaning Yorkshireman. Make sure you go check out his channel. Hilarious dude. Hilarious stuff. He's got some good content on Formula One. And if you like cars in general, plug out to his channel. Big up to yourself, mate. Yeah, what an evening it is. And as you said, minimal points is what's going to decide this title. And obviously, we saw what Red Bull went and done. Ducked inside, got the soft tires on. Verstappen with the fastest lap of the race as well, just as he did. I think it was Perez or whoever it was last weekend that done the same thing. It's going to be small little margins. I did a video a couple of weeks back where Toto had mentioned that DNFs will absolutely kill the title race this week.
Of course.
And this was, we're going back a couple of weeks ago, so he kind of sort of knew that. If we have to make sure we maintain points every single race,
Of
and even
course.
that point, Valtteri Bottas, by the way, which is a strange situation that we have, because do you remember in the beginning, sort of when he had sort of fallen back, and it just seemed like he was in no man's land. Toto then gets on the radio and says, "Brother, you
Pick
you
it
need
up.
to get it going. Come on!"
Mhm.
And as soon as he sort of had like a rocket up his backside, all of a sudden, we see Bottas going through the field.
Yeah,
So
just
there's something bizarre about Bottas mentally, because he's got the pace when he wants to. You look at the Saturdays, he's got that pace, but then when it comes to the Sunday that we can't find him, when the pressure's on, we
mm,
can't find him. But then on this occasion, your boss says, "Pick up the pace." I don't know any bigger pressure than that, in
of
my
course, Pete.
opinion.
It's
So
so
what
true.
changed? What
It's so
changed?
true. It's so true, Pete. And I'll say with Bottas, it's fundamentally, I just see him as a Saturday drive. You see Bottas, yeah. Bottas is like Herms. He never delivers on a Sunday, but he's always on your front door on a Saturday. But to be fair
Oh,
to him, it's the two dynamics. I think Bottas is a competent driver. He has the ability to deliver most of the times. But I think sometimes, obviously, he can get very distracted. He's not got that element of tire conservation that Perez and maybe another driver would give you as well. And on
Mm,
top of that, sometimes we have to question his racecraft quite a lot too. And also, what I'll say with him, maybe in terms of his mindset, is I think at times he doesn't have faith in the team because we've seen examples this year. For example, in was it the French Grand Prix, for example, when
yeah,
they left him out long and he said,
yeah,
"Guys, you should have pitted me." They didn't. And then, for example, obviously Sergio Perez was managed able to undercut him in that one. Then
yes,
we can cut to the Monaco Grand Prix, where again wasn't really challenging Verstappen, but was holding a solid second place. Flopped him again with the pit stop with
mm,
the wheel nut that got cross-threaded. Then in Mexico again, then he got taken out by Ricardo, no fault of his own, of course. But then Mercedes again, not really helping him with the slow stop either.
yeah,
So there are times where Bottas, I think, wants to do more than he can, and sometimes Mercedes don't give him the opportunity. And when you're in that situation where you want to give your best and then you're not being given the tools, where's the motivation to do so? Especially now, Pete, when we have to remember this is a guy that has a contract for next year. So he's
yeah,
just living the best of the champagne and just like the high life that he has at Mercedes, obviously, until
yeah,
his days are done. So it's a tricky one, but definitely, as you said, when Toto came on the radio, when you hear that thick Austrian accent, the
oh
Arnold
yeah,
Schwarzenegger accent,
oh yeah,
he's just like, yeah, just gotta pick it up. But then again, today Mercedes, I feel they were a bit ambitious leaving him out so long on those medium tires, man. I was
yeah.
screaming when like lap 30 passed. I was like, yo, put him
Were
on the
you?
hard tire. He will lose.
You were getting nervous, yeah.
Of course, Pete, because at that stage, Perez had made his pit stop, and I think
Hmm.
there was a gap of maybe 20 seconds between Perez and Bottas. So, of course,
Yeah,
Bottas would have probably come out just behind Perez, but he would have been on the fresher tires and would have been able to react to whatever Perez did. But I think what Mercedes gambled on was leaving him out really long with the Sergio Perez type strategy, going really long, and then having
yeah.
a fresh set of boots towards the end. And unfortunately, this weekend, with the abrasive nature of the circuit, punctured his tires, and it was all over before we knew it.
Look, that's a very interesting one because I know that Hamilton did want to stay out longer, so I thought maybe I'm trusting Hamilton more than I would even trust his own team because you know what Hamilton's like.
Yep.
He's been here and he's done it year on year out for over a decade. So I sort of was like kind of siding. Oh, he's noticing something here that maybe his team isn't quite working out. And as well, Mercedes. How many times have they flopped their own base? Whether it's this season, even last season,
Pete,
they did.
it's
Exactly.
it's I don't want to like I don't want to call the fraud watch people, bro, but there are lots of fraudulent activities on that AMG Petronas team, bro, because even just the miscommunications in Hungary when
Yeah,
every single driver came in for the
yeah,
dry tires and
yeah,
Hamilton got left on the wet,
yeah.
even when they let Verstappen do the undercut as well at the French Grand Prix too. I
Hmm.
think because Mercedes have had the performance in the car for so long, it's enabled the team to become a bit lackadaisical sometimes with the strategy.
Yeah.
So it's only now that they're really being pushed to their top, capacities, and we're seeing them have to earn every single point, every single Grand Prix win, every single pole,
Yeah.
just to make ends meet.
Let me get through to some of the comments, guys. Big up to everybody that's commenting in, man, woman, and child. Please do hit the like button, by the way, if you're liking this content. If you want to see more live streams about Formula One, who else is doing it? Huh? Who's doing it like us? Huh? Let's keep it 100, right? But in all seriousness, Moaning Yorkshireman mentions that he thinks that Bottas will do well in the Alfa Romeo. I'm not entirely sure. Like I understand what he means with regards to like the Williams in 23 and how he in 2013, sorry, where he did drag that car into good positions. But I'm getting Kimi Raikkonen vibes here. I don't know about you, Des.
Which
That's what I'm thinking when he
mm,
jumps into that Alfa Romeo. I'm getting Kimi Raikkonen vibes. I might be very very harsh here, but I'm
mm.
definitely not gonna be. I'm not expecting anything from Bottas next year.
Same. I
Thoughts?
wouldn't put too many high expectations on him, but I agree with the moaning Yorkshireman as well. And thank you as well for his other comment about me just remembering all this stuff. Like, is this everything in this race was
Nah,
like a
for real.
picture?
By the way, yeah, explain. You need to teach us how do we how do people there's some people even on this chat who've got memories that I'm just like, really? You know what I'm
Bro,
saying?
it's like a picture to me, man. When I watch these Grand Prix, it's like watching a movie, and
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
like,
yeah,
it's like all these different subplots and everything that's happening. But yeah,
yeah.
to answer his first kind of point as well, yeah, I don't think the Alfa Romeo thing will be such a bad thing for him, Pete. And we might see a kind of Pierre Gasly like dynamic where he might do better in a team where there's not so much pressure. Of course, as well with Alfa Romeo, they're not the richest team on the grid, but they've got a bit of heritage. They've got lots of experience. It's a team that's been there for many years as well.
Yeah.
Obviously, I think well, it depends if Guan Yu Zhou or as my guy like Dave would say, Zhao. Like if Zhao doesn't give him the kick up the backside, then Bottas might be the lead man for Alpha and kind of control the development and the path that the team take with the nature of the car and what they want to focus on. So he might
Yeah.
actually be okay there. And you got to also say that you should maybe be thankful for a seat there because there's not many people that rant and rave about Bottas. He kind of
Mm.
goes under the radar when you talk about top five, top six drivers, in the future of Formula One.
Yes. No, very, very, very true. Let's check on any other comments on different topics. There's so many things to talk about today, by
Yeah.
the way, and I don't even know where to even begin. William, just let me know what you meant by that HPP.
High
You might have
power performance.
okay, fine. In regards to what was the conversation in
It
regards
was
to?
the Mercedes. So, like, I think it was the question you asked earlier when you said, "What area does of
Okay,
Mercedes deserve the most credit?" So,
I'm with
HPP,
you.
high power performance, definitely in terms of
Oh,
the engine.
it almost sounds like a department that's like the be all and end all. You know
Yeah,
what I'm saying?
it
If
sounds
there's
like
something
some
called high,
real serious
oh,
stuff, man.
there are some degrees and masters in that department. I can assure you of
Trust
that.
me.
Big up to Fortune Akona. Big up yourself. Alonso still going strong. Oh, can we talk about him, please? Can we can
I
we can we, can we get
El
onto El
Nando,
Can
El
we get onto him?
Nandes.
Can we get onto him, please? Huh? Can
Of
we do this?
course, of course.
Fernando
It's
Alonso,
not.
ladies and gentlemen. I mean, that is a man who hits me in the feel spot very, very much. Obviously, beating Schumacher, it goes way back for me. When Schumacher was dominating, I was getting very annoyed, and Mr. Alonso comes into the game and he gets 2 titles back to back. He joins the McLaren team. I was so gutted for how it happened and how it ended and whatnot. But nonetheless, he is going strong. The guy is on the podium. Let me listen. Remember when he was coming back last year when they announced it? The amount of like stick he got, like the amount of noise. Everybody was like, "Oh my god!" But what about the young drivers? And what about this? And what about that? And I totally understand.
Mhm.
We want to see young drivers, but by the way, there's a lot of young drivers on the grid. Do you know what I'm saying? We got bare. So it was a bit confusing when I saw that he was coming back into Renault at the time, and it was like not met with open arms unless you're one of those who probably maybe the old school guys probably prefer
Mhm.
to see him back. I take it maybe a lot of newer fans. When I say newer, I don't mean it in a patronizing way, but let's just say from 2015 onwards,
Yeah,
they probably thought, he's done his time. I mean, look
grumpy
at
old
Kimmy.
man.
Yeah, exactly. Look at Kimmy. To be fair, Kimmy staying on this circuit hasn't really been that entertaining. Like I thought I'll be here for the bants. I'm ready. I was ready for the banter because he's clearly given up on driving. So, but then we got nothing from him. But Fernando, I just knew there's a beast in there.
There's a
Someone
fire.
still hungry. Yeah, man,
There's a fire.
definitely. What are your thoughts on Fernando's performance and deservedly winning driver of the day? Big up who's
Sen-
there as well, by the way.
yeah, and shout out to Zara as well. And yeah, sensational stuff, man. Listen, I'll be honest with you, Pete. As you
Mm.
can probably see from the red poster just below the Lewis one, I was
Ah,
a like a Mickey, like fanboy back in the day, man. Like, 'cause it's weird. It's
I
like
see.
my dad's not impressed by too many people, but when Michael Schumacher was on the TV, you could not get my dad to move. Shout out my dad. So
Big
listen,
up
when
to your dad.
Fernando Alonso came onto the scene, he dethroned Michael Schumacher. Like,
Yeah,
raw, this guy is smoky, like Smokey and the
yeah,
Bandit. And then
yeah.
listen, he's had times where he can be a bit sour. I think you mentioned on the last interactive stream he did as well. He's not a
Mm.
man that deals well with incompetence. But listen, Pete, just to kind of summarize my point here, I
Yeah, yeah.
think he's evolved. I think he obviously took some time out of the sport. He went and did the IndyCar. Obviously, he had a bit of heartache through that. Then obviously he went and did Le Mans, and I don't think he
Yep.
won it the first time. I think it was the second year he
Second.
participated in it. He won it, and then he went and did the Dakar Rally as well. So this is a man that's left Formula One and had to join different sports where the emphasis is not so much on the driver, the emphasis is on the team and working together in synergy with each other to get the best result.
Yeah.
So with Fernando Alonso, now, I think he's matured. I think he's gained a bit more patience. He's still not going to deal with the stupidness. Like, you will still grill a man. Like, you'll
Exactly.
still put man on the grill, like the jerk man at the end of Arabia. But
Yes.
listen, he's got that kind of patience now and that understanding. He's got a young apprentice in Esteban Ocon too, and it seems like they've got quite a good bromance working there as well.
Yeah.
And the main thing was experience, because what was so different from Fernando Alonso making his medium or hard tires last towards the end of the Grand Prix, and all the other people like Lando, Russell,
Mm.
Bottas as well having punches.
Mm.
It's that experience and just being able to massage the tires, being able to make tires last the stint, even just his like work in overtaking and getting the move done on Gasly.
Yeah.
He's far from finished, Pete. And I think and that's one thing people always say, if you give Fernando Alonso a good car, he would run things. And that's why I have to give
Exactly.
him credit.
I'm amazed that he started P3 and he finished P3.
And
Like
the thing is
I
as well, Pete, he did it on merit. It wasn't a
yes.
thing where we had like a calamity thing with a safety car or like any kind of weird, bizarre circumstances, Lewis getting a drive-through. He literally did it on the muscle.
Yes.
So you have to give him his props, man.
You have to give him his props. I mean, I'm so glad just to see him, like, to see how happy he was as well. Just to see him, like, it filled me with all the joy. Big up Mahad as well, man. Man said L Plan, yeah? You're done though, man. I'm so freaking glad that he was on there. And I saw people on Twitter, like, upset that he's on the podium. It's like, oh no,
Why?
my worst nightmare has come to fruition. I'm thinking, hang on a minute. Hang on just a second, I think Fernando has got a lot to prove, and I think the fact that he did manage to keep that car, top 5 throughout the entire race, that surprised me because the car
This
didn't.
shows you, Pete. It just shows you
Mm,
that this guy, he has a legacy, and the guy is a true villain. There's not many people that could get underneath a fan base's skin. Like even
yeah.
me, just like I'm not a Fernando Alonso fan per se, but I respect him. You have to, like
Mm.
again, you're gonna have to get me doing the Nicky Lauda thing today with that hat. You have to take your hat off to the finish. The
But
sensational stuff by him, man. It's incredible. And
no.
also,
Mm.
honorable shout out to Ocon too for that defense against Perez.
Of course, yeah. You know what I'm saying? Get the elbows out. I was sitting there like, oh really? What
Mm.
against Perez? I thought,
Mhm.
why are you even gonna bother? Like you're gonna just ruin your tires,
It gave me
and
Force India vibes, when the two of them put Ocon and Paris in the
Force
same
India. Oh
team.
my God, yes,
Whew.
of course. Yo, that was a hilarious sort of team, sort of tag team, by the way. That was absolutely hilarious. Moaning Yorkshireman says, thanks, bud. Anytime, my friend. Anytime, my friend. Like I said, go check out his channel 100%. Scoop on football. What's going on? Lewis and Mercedes deserve all the credit in the world for clawing back the deficit. Like you guys
Amen.
said, it looked to be over at one point. No word of a lie was said in that statement there. It did look to be over. I was absolutely amazed that the fact that he actually did claw himself back into this. Let's check the other comments. Big up to Damien. What's happening, G? Toto just said that they were going to bring the spicy engine in the next round. Wait a minute. So there's another one? Like
Hey, I'm
what
telling
the
you,
hell?
the AMG
Oh
department
man.
have sauce. They got sauce
Oh
for
man.
days. They just
Man
been letting
said
the
the
sauce
spice.
marinate.
They gave us the Nando's sort of lemon and herb, yeah, just to
Mm,
give man a teaser, and we're gonna
mm.
rank it up a little bit. We're gonna bring it to the medium, and then maybe the extra
Strong.
hot in Abu Dhabi. Who knows?
Way
So
spicy.
if he's talking that, then boy, that's gonna be a lot of
Effort.
things. Moaning Yorkshireman says, can I just say I am a Max fan, but my God, I've enjoyed this season so much. I just wish the off-track antics would stop so we can have a fair fight at the front.
Yep.
I'm totally with you. Listen, I'm, am I a Max fan or a Lewis fan? Do you know what? I'll probably say I'm neither in terms of like where I stand. I'm a McLaren guy first, but I love the title race. I need a title race, even if it was, I don't care who the driver is. Okay, I need two challenges. As long as I've got a minimum of two, 3 would be great, 4 would be great, right? I need competition. I don't give a damn, even if it is like, say I'm a Lando Norris fan, right? If he goes off and he wins every single race and he's leaving everybody behind, slowly but surely I will start to lose a bit of the enthusiasm in Formula One. As much as my team is winning, I'm still going to lose a bit of the
It
enthusiasm.
doesn't have that kind of, it doesn't have that effect like of you
Yeah,
earning something outright and having to grind for it. It's the grind that we
yeah.
respect, and we love to see the challenge.
And here's what I'll say about F1 Twitter, by the way, because it's starting to annoy me. I didn't realize it was a bad place, right? Or it can be a bad place.
It's toxic.
Dude,
Pete, do you remember Toxic Way Sweets? That's
oh
F1
my
Twitter.
God. Yeah, man, Toxic Wait. Oh, that was a serious sweep, by the way.
Wait, tell you.
What's it called? When I would say things like, "Oh, I hope Max wins this weekend," and all of a sudden,
Hate.
how can you as a black man not be supporting? Look, whoa! Listen,
Exactly.
this is not why I came in the game, baby. I came in here for the competition. Okay, I'm here to see both drivers fight for the best. That's all I care about, and I wish that every car was the same. I wish they had, I would rather see 20 Mercedes cars on the grid, just so that everybody, even Latifi one day, gets on in the points or on the podium or whatever. That's all I care about. I don't give a damn about where he's from or what color he is or whatever else. Like, don't get me wrong. Am I happy to see a black man doing well in Formula One? You're damn right I am, because there's been one of them. You know what I mean?
For so long.
There's been like,
years of the
one.
sport.
Exactly. You know what I'm saying? I got to go back to Willie T. Ribs. I mean, come on. you know them ones.
Shout out to him, though.
Big up to him. But, of course I understand all of that, all of the above, right? But when you start making it cultish, when you start making it like, what it's like with football, isn't it? You get so it goes beyond logical sort of passionate about your side, that now
it's not so much about the drivers or actually the dynamics of sport. It's this kind of nasty attacks on people, and that's not what we want to see.
Exactly. It gets absolutely nasty. And I've been fighting this case, back to the comment, I've been fighting the case that this is a season that we need to, like, we're going to remember it for years, and we need to appreciate it while we're having it right now, because to have two guys fighting, and it's not even in the same team, by the way, like, at least with the Rosberg one, we could say we had a title race, but bloody hell, Mercedes 1 and 2 was like 17 out of 19 races. Do you know what I mean? And that was a bit like, oh, come on, guys, especially with Fernando Alonso's GP2 engine with the McLaren. Like, it is one of those ones where I'm happy to see competition. I'm happy to see fight, and I'm hoping, like, personally, I'm hoping Max gets a win between now and the end of the season, because if Lewis wins the next two, like, if he wins the next one, it's over, isn't it? It's over. And I don't want it to be over in Saudi Arabia. I want us to go to Abu Dhabi, everybody bricking it, like sweating, nervous. We're all here just like, oh my God, what are we gonna do? So yeah, I just wanted to. Sorry, I had to get it off my chest, because I see a lot of it. I see, and it goes the other way as well. Max fans that are just, they're blindly supporting Max because Lewis is a cheat, or he's this and he's that, and it's like, oh, let's just take away. I don't give a damn what they do outside the track. Let's talk about them on the track, head to head, driver for driver. That's all I care about. That's how it should be. That's how it should be. Anyway, we'll move on to the next comments, guys. There's a lot of comments in the section. Please hit the like button if you are liking this video, and please leave comments. We want to hear what you have to say. This is your show. We want you to talk about anything and everything. I don't care what it involves in the race. Let this be your show. Scoop on Football says Bottas is like a snail going through the field. Yeah, until he got kicked up the backside, isn't it? By Toto Wolff.
Man held at a heavy team radio and said, boy, Get to work.
If Toto has to talk to me, I'm in trouble. It's not good.
Of course.
If Toto's coming to me, nah, forget about it.
Do you ever hear him on the radio with Lewis? Hardly ever.
Never.
Hardly ever.
Only when he's congratulating him. You know the one.
It's true.
Oh God, big up to William. Brazil as well. I think he was mentioning. What was he mentioning? I remember when the comment came. I think it was about the 1-2 with Bottas and with the Mercedes. Was looking for a 1-2. I'm guessing you even mean today. It was on the cards. It was there. Perez had an awful qualifying, even with Bottas's penalty. Who, by the way, seemed to not even care that he had a penalty. What were your thoughts on that? He was just it is what it is.
Yeah, it's strange, man. And I think that was one of the points I raised in the pre-show build-up as well. Of the FIA need to really sort this thing out with the penalties, man. Obviously,
Oh,
you want to give them time to analyze the data and the evidence and to make a fair decision, of course, regardless of whether it's in favor of Red Bull or in favor of Mercedes. But when
mm,
it's these sort of situations where they're letting the decision marinate in
yeah,
sauce for like a
yeah,
whole 24 hours. Man's not getting
yeah.
like the next day delivery with the decision. It's
These, you
quite
know, them ones
frustrating. And
from
I
what.
don't know if you realize as well, Pete. I
Mm.
think Bottas is on the wrong side of the grid. Like
Oh,
when they were taking the cars.
that was a mare. That was such a mare. But look, I had it as a subject to talk about later, but you brought it up now, so I'm just gonna go with it. Yeah, the FIA delays and the mixed frigging grid. Okay, because even Mercedes tweeted, I think P5 for Bottas, right? And then it was like, but wait, he's P6, and everybody was like, what's going on? This provisional grid that came out, and it turns out to be the right. I mean, I don't know if you saw the footage of Ferrari and Mercedes having to switch
Switch
places.
sides.
It was just a joke
Oh
thing,
man,
man.
it's a
It was
calamity.
absolute.
It's a calamity, and it completely undermines the core fundamental principles of the sport. Because Formula One's about precision. It's about
Mm,
everything being on the knife edge and brilliance. And sometimes just the FIA just don't seem to get it consistently enough. And as a
sure.
fan, it can be really frustrating. But at the same time, I think we need to have a bit of courtesy and a bit of respect for them, of course, because with
Yeah,
sports, there's always a lot of adrenaline. You can always look at things in hindsight with a different set of eyes, of course. And I think
absolutely.
Christian Horner might be in some trouble too, because I'm hearing some stirrings off the track that he made some comments in the
We'll
interview,
get onto that. We'll get
and
onto
I'll
that.
say that for later.
Yeah, there's a segment on that coming up as well. But
Mm,
yeah, man, I just if the stewards did it, you can understand. You know what I mean? They get to do it once a year. The FIA, come on, and you call yourself Formula One. You are the pinnacle of motorsport. This is
mm,
not. These are not antics we should be having. Okay, we
mm.
should not be having this at all. But oh yeah, this is the comment about you and your photographic memory.
Photographic memory, man. I'm like Mike Ross.
Big up Scoop on football. You done know, man. Thank you for loving the chat. Please hit the like button, and as well, if you want to jump in the chat, I'll just probably put it in the comment section right now. Anybody that wants to join in the live stream, listen, man. We're diverse people. We welcome all colors and creeds and ages and everything else. All right, to jump on the chat with us. So feel free to jump on. I want Alonso to get 100 podiums. You and me
Possible.
both. Who's there? You and
Possible.
me both. Let's just hope they got a car that is good next season. I'm hoping that there's a car that is good next season. That's all I care about. Oh, William, I thought we were going to dodge this subject. I did think today.
Fraud watch.
Oh, I see man behind. What was it? Was he behind Latifi? There was a moment in the race when he was behind a car he should have never been anywhere near. Alfa Romeo. It was behind the Alfa Romeo, and I said, "What is going on, Danny? What is going on? What happened to Danny
Smiling
Ricciardo?"
Assassins is going out. Sad boy, I'm telling you.
It's a
Smiling
tough one.
Assassins, more looking like Assassin's Creed. Like,
It's tough. It was even Ricardo's your favorite driver, and this and he's
Uzer,
done this
it
badly.
must be sad.
So,
Uzer,
but
man, I feel it for
at
you.
least at least he celebrated a Grand Prix win. You know what I mean?
That's true.
That
That,
that
that
Grand
is
Prix win
true.
at the end of the day, like that could cover up all sins for the year. Do you know what I mean? Like to win a race.
It's true, Pete, but that will only buy you so much credit, man. Like, let's compare it to football. Obviously, you've got like Arsenal, they won the FA Cup with Arteta, and that bought him some
Yeah,
credit. But
yeah,
then there'll be a time when the critics will be on to you again because they want to
yeah.
see it consistently. And for Lando to really be the face of the team and to be really the one carrying the team on his back, it's not great for Ricardo, man. And I like,
It's
don't get me
not.
wrong, as much as I have to banter him, like
Yeah.
it hurts me inside my soul because he's a great guy. The guy should be advertising Colgate. He's always smiling with them pearly whites, man. But to see him so down and to see him not like putting a charge in at least the top six, yeah, man, you have to
Yeah.
start looking at it and start saying, is it that the team could do more to integrate him in and to help build the car that would suit his
Mm.
braking and his characteristics more? Or does he just need to kick up the backside to just deliver it more consistently?
Yeah, like I don't know if I should be concerned whether we're not getting a pissed off Danny Ricciardo right now. Do you know what I mean? Like you
Mm,
said, he's still smiling and happy, which
mm,
you know maybe we like to see him not lose his cool, maybe not lose his head. Maybe he knows
of course.
exactly what's going on maybe he might see something, that we're working on something, guys. Just give us a bit of time.
Mm, mm,
I've heard the McLaren car is hard to drive, but this is a guy who did drive in a Red Bull, which I heard is the hardest.
of
So
course.
I don't know. I'm a bit concerned with Danny because if he was a bit annoyed, then at least I could see. Okay, look,
Passion.
he's there. Yeah, there's something there.
Mm.
But whether or not he just conceded when he went to McLaren, he just conceded. I will never be Formula One world champion, and we had that conversation not long ago. I mean, big up to Mahad and the pit stop fracker. I mean, we had that chat and literally just said, literally we just said, boom, how can he just accept not winning a title? We got somebody live in the lobby right now. I'm gonna big up to William. What's happening, William? What are you saying? You good?
What's up, fellas?
William.
How y'all doing?
We are
Very
good.
well.
Oh, what? Where's the accent from? Whoa, I didn't expect this.
I had to switch it up on. No, I'm from DC, Washington DC.
Now you're talking. Yes,
my
man.
guy.
Yes,
yes, sir. Sir.
I got family in Potomac, Maryland. So
you right around the corner.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Wicked. Okay, talk to us very briefly. What got you into Formula One? Who's your team? Who's your driver?
Man, first and foremost, loving the show, guys. Loving what you guys are doing.
Appreciate it, man.
I got into Formula One years ago. I think it was around the time that it was the battle between Lewis and Nico. I think that was around the time where I really got into it. Being here in the States, we didn't get the kind of broadcasting, in my opinion, that you guys get on other sides of the planet. But that's where it really became easier for me, at least, to kind of tap in to see what the drivers were doing and what was going on. But I was just in it for the battle. I mean, you had at the time, you had Sebastian Vettel, kind of being that guy that was going against Lewis and Mercedes. And at the time you had, obviously Bottas kind of being that threat as well to maybe what was going on with Lewis and his reign of terror, if you will, that he was doing. So I've been in it really since then, but I'm loving this year's battle. I can't lie, my emotions get the best of me sometimes watching Max and him doing his thing. But I mean, shouts out to Red Bull. I mean, they're really they've really put up the fight. Christian Horner said himself. I mean, Mercedes has had it easy for the past 7 years, and so for them to be the ones to put up a good fight, it's just fun. It's all in good fun, and you can't beat that.
No, we can't argue with that at all. And it's good to see that, fans from all over the world, although the coverage could be better elsewhere, like at least it's bringing people like yourselves in, because that's what draws eyes. It's competition. It's battles. That's what we want in Formula One at the end of the day. So it's good to have you on board, man. It's good to have you on board there. And yeah, man, we hope for, next season, new regulations. We're hoping that the whole thing just flips upside down, and it could be anybody, any team, any driver that could really, really push, the Mercedes next season. So
absolutely.
Let's see how it goes, man. Uzair says Mercedes high performance powertrains is the Mercs engine division. Okay, that's the HPP, yeah. Moaning Yorkshireman, what's happening? When you just get a positive vibe from someone, I'm getting that from AMG Dens. Sounds like such a good guy. Loving the absolutely.
You guys, man. I appreciate that.
100%. He's not wrong there. He's not wrong there at all. I got to say, I hated Alonso coming back, but I'm happy to say I was wrong. And this is it.
Just like that, and you want the drivers to prove you wrong. So
that's it. Yeah. I think a lot of people who didn't want him back, I think a lot of fans are saying, you know what, actually he's competitive. He's actually not been that bad. I don't think he's even got frustrated yet this season, has he? I haven't
heard him losing in school.
It's not the typical Alonso that everybody painted the brush with. So to see him back now, sort of doing what he's doing, fair play to him. Your thoughts on Alonso, William, being back in the sport?
It's fun to see him, during that time when he was at McLaren. You can obviously tell he had that winner's mentality, right? The mentality of an individual who was so used to being at the top, competing with a top level package, and he hasn't been able to do that while he was at McLaren. So it looked like kind of, and Dents, I think you mentioned this a little earlier, him stepping away kind of regrouping, going into IndyCar, going into Le Mans, and then, kind of finding that right fit. And he obviously McLaren might not have at the time been that right fit, because I think at the time they had a Renault engine, and that was kind of, the reliability aspect was a problem. So it's good to see him be competitive now, because you want to see drivers. I think the problem that F1 does deal with when it comes to drivers is sometimes they don't get to go off on their own merit, right? They kind of have to get forced out. And it seems that he's kind of having the ability to write his own story, as what legends should have the right to have. So that's my thoughts.
No, good, well said, man. Well said. I must admit. As I said, I never doubted Nando. He was always going to be better than Zhou and Lundgaard. Oh, of course, yeah, Lundgaard. I totally forgot even about him sort of popping up into the
P,
scene.
let me say something, yeah? Like, Alpine are moving like Arsenal with this youth academy and bare youths in the system. You've got Piastri, you've got obviously Zhao, you've got all these drivers in the system, man. It's incredible to see that all these other, franchises other than Mercedes and Ferrari and Red Bull are starting to build their own inner talents too that will someday be the future of Formula One.
I think people forget how big Renault was, as a team. It's a big company. It's a big, a big Formula One team. When Danny Ricciardo left Red Bull and went over to Renault, he said he couldn't believe how much bigger the factory was, for example. And I thought, hang on, you've just come out of Red Bull. But he was saying, Renault we forget the DNA of Renault has sort of bled through Formula One for years, whether it was just an engine or whether it was a team. So it's one of those kind of teams that I kind of slept on in terms of pedigree in the sport, so let's see, man. Let's see if they can go back to their winning ways, as with Fernando Alonso as well. El Plan, this guy's still got it. Big up to Mahad, who clearly is a fan of Fernando Alonso. He had no right being on the podium, just like his last podium in 2014. Do you remember that last podium in 2014?
That's cold.
No. Look, I think he's bigging him up. I think he's saying that, look, how on earth did he get that car on the podium when you consider what the competition is around him?
Yeah.
He had a Red Bull behind him. He had a Mercedes behind him. He had both Ferraris, both McLarens. To still be there, and remember their fight this year is with the Alpha Tauri, who we can't find. I can't see them. I don't know where they are. They went missing in this race. So as you say, Fernando Alonso is different breed. There's a few drivers on that grid who are different,
DNA.
Different DNA.
It's different DNA.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I wish Alonso was in the 2018 Ferrari. 2018 would have been one of the greatest seasons ever if it happened, I think. Man, I always feel like whenever Alonso leaves, then all of a sudden the team that he's left
gets more competitive. Oh man, he just got that curse on them.
Do you know how many times that's happened?
It's
true. You just sort of think to yourself, man, it's just
waited that one extra year, and then it happens.
Yeah. It's hilarious. The Brazil engine wasn't used today, so in referring to Toto's comments, leaving the spicy, leaving the extra hot spice for probably next week. That's going to the next race,
up, man. He's letting it fry.
So, because what's funny? Practice session of this weekend. Hamilton mentioned that they're slow on the straights, and I thought, hang on a minute, you just got a fresh new batch. What happened? Like, why has that gone out all of a sudden? And then somebody in Sky Sports F1 had mentioned that they're not necessarily going to use that same engine for every race running, and apparently that they normally save some good engines for the last couple of races. So maybe that's what's happened here. So that's probably why. But I mean, by the way, I couldn't tell. The car was so good this weekend in the end that you didn't even need to use the new engine anyway.
How does that work? Whenever they get a new allocation for a new engine, is it two engines that they get?
So I think go ahead, then.
Pete. Yeah, when they basically take a new engine, William, that gets added to the allocation. So I think Lewis had two because there was one in Brazil, and then where's the other one? He took some sort of a penalty for. Was it? It's gonna come to me soon. But he
Where's the
did.
memory gone? Where's it gone?
I know, right? It's let me down on this spot now.
Challenging.
Oh man, it's let me down now. But I can remember Lewis taking some sort of grid
But
penalty.
I had heard that I thought that originally my thought process was that whenever they needed a new engine, it was one new block that they were going to be using or engine components.
Mhm.
But somebody else had mentioned, I don't know if it was in Sky or whatever the case may have been, but they had mentioned that they had an allocation of two. But then I never heard it again, so I just didn't know what
Okay,
that meant.
it makes sense. But yeah, Lewis does have two additional units. I know for a fact he obviously took one in Brazil, and
Yeah.
then there was another time. What was the other sprint race? Was it Monza?
Was that
Or was it,
Monza? I think.
Monza?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think Monza, or maybe I think Monza.
Yeah.
Is one of the circuits where you could overtake, so they just decided to take it there instead of anywhere
Yeah.
else.
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
They're very strategic with when to bring the new one in because, like you say, the Monza, you got Brazil, you've got I think even Silverstone, they may have had something there. So and in what I started to learn over the season is that just because they've gone for something new doesn't mean that the one that they had is absolutely finished and it's
No.
gone. So it's some of the engines, of course. I think how many engines can you have in a season? Is it
So
4?
you are allowed. It used to be 4. I think
Okay.
they actually took it down to 3, which is
Okay.
absolutely ridiculous. But again, it's this whole cost saving things. Obviously,
Yeah.
engines and all these components, they take a lot of money to develop and
Yeah.
obviously a lot of money to produce as well. So there's free
Yeah.
engines that you're allowed. And then
Yeah.
after you go outside the free, you incur penalties for them. But then
Yes.
obviously it's not just the internal combustion engine. You've
Yeah.
also got the turbocharger, which you can replace, the
Mhm.
gearbox you can replace, the MGUK, the kinetics, that's the part of
Yeah.
the engine which harvests the kinetic energy from the brake. You then
Yeah.
also have MGU, I think H, which is
H.
the
Yeah.
heat. So it takes hot air from the turbo and the exhaust gases,
Ah.
feeds it back to spin a turbo and gives the engine more power. So
Mhm.
there's so many
Huh.
elements of the engine you could change to.
Mhm.
Interesting. Okay, so that's something for me to. You're gonna be educating me, okay?
Hey,
On this.
love it. Love
It's
it.
all these simulations and video games, bro. I'm telling
Yeah.
you.
Oh, yeah. Fair enough. Fair enough. Uzair says to be honest, I want the FIA to put Horner and Toto in a boxing ring.
Hey, who's winning? Who's gonna win that one? We should put like a vote in the chat. Who would win?
Do you know what? Yeah, I think obviously Toto being the bigger stature, I think would squash him. But I think like Horner would get a knife out and just cut him. Like he'll be sly. He would do something. He would
Yeah,
behave like he does now. Do you know what I mean?
pay
He
the
will look for
referee or
something.
something.
He'll pay the ref. You know what I mean? He would do something, rip something. I don't know, bite
Moving
him.
like Eddie Guerrero, fly, cheat, and steal.
Exactly. That's what it will be. So it'll be a DQ at the end of it all. Um, F1 Twitter is the worst thing in the world at times. Yeah, I mean, look, there's a lot of Twitter kind of topics, whether it's football Twitter, Formula One Twitter, wherever, whatever subject you're interested in. It has its good, and then it has its absolute vile, and you just think, geez, I never thought I'd see it in Formula One, but hey, it can happen anywhere. Entertainment in F1 over everything. That's what Mahad is saying. What are your thoughts on that comment there? I take it he means, in terms of, I think it was the comment when I referred to about Lewis, just because Lewis is black, I should support him and whatever
Right.
else. But
Right.
I think for him, it was more so just a case of we want to have a championship. We want to see something competitive over everything in Formula One, regardless of background and whatever else. It's nice to see someone that you can relate to,
Mhm.
but it's not where the kind of the buck stops, if
Mhm.
that makes sense. What are your guys' thoughts?
Yeah, I'll go first then. Yeah, just absolutely. We want to see a challenge, want to see a fight. You can see that obviously Formula One, as William was mentioned earlier, it really struggled to get a market across. And thank God, obviously, now we got Liberty Media that now own shares in the company. So you
Yeah,
have this old wrinkle Bernie Eccleston, with
yeah,
his ancient archaic ways, just like thinking that Formula One's only a sport for the rich
yeah,
and elite. He's trying to make it more accessible. And although obviously we were going to these like these Middle Eastern countries, that also comes with its own human rights and obviously
yeah,
political things as well. But it's good to see that the sport is reaching a wider demographic of different people, that they're able to interact with the fans a lot more. I don't know if you saw it, Peter and William, as well. There was this like little kind of short, funny like football tournament with some football legends such as Desai, Cafu, Peter Schmeichel, and they were doing this like football challenge with them and F1 drivers, and this to make it so much more relatable. I think it's so cool because back in the days of Schumacher and Hakkinen, they were just seen as posters, like literally as they are on my wall. They were never seen as somebody tangible, somebody with feelings, somebody you can actually relate to. So not only is it that the racing on the track is a lot more closer, but also just you're getting more value for money, which is why I'm not the greatest fan of the new sprint qualifying system. But I can appreciate that, it's giving a wider audience of people the opportunity to like get a flavor of the sport and get some of the essence as well.
Yeah. What? How about you, William? What would you have to say in regards
I
to that?
completely agree. I mean, from the aspect of the history of the sport, I've gone back and kind of rewound the history and tried to learn about the different type of drivers and different type of teams, the background of the teams and things of that nature, and it was all pretty much consistent. I think the biggest thing for me is seeing that it's the message that F1 is sending out today. It's, I've got a 6-year-old little boy, right? And my thing is, when he watches the races and qualifying with me, one day maybe he might want to drive. And that goes for not just, my son, but maybe a little girl that is from, Brazil or anywhere that we can all, if you're quick, you're quick, right?
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, it's about the diversity. And I think the message that not just one aspect of the garage, but I think Formula One as a whole is sending out this level of diversity that anyone can race. If you're quick, get behind a wheel, or not just that, if you're, have new ideas, engineering, tap into that. And I think there's so many different avenues and areas that, it can be utilized at this point. And I completely agree with the comment of entertainment in F1. At the end of the day, we just want to see the best of the best win. I could care less if, what somebody's background is. It's about fast driving, what records are being broken and things of that nature. That's what makes the sport fun.
Absolutely.
You're spot on. You're spot on. And as the Moaning Yorkshireman said, look, I want a dead level championship until Abu Dhabi and let the best man win. That's exactly it. That's exactly what we want. That's exactly
Pete, one other comment from Mahad as well. The run would have flogged Danny Rick in public. That one has me crazy. Oh man, Ron Dennis was a
Ron
savage
Dennis.
back in the day. Just
Ron Dennis is a savage guy, man. Honestly, he was an absolute savage guy. And you're spot on, Mahad. By the way, he definitely would have. Speaking of Vettel, he bottled it today as well with the massive drop at the start. Aston Martin should have retained Perez instead, wasting money on Vettel.
Perez, I'm sorry, not Perez. Peter, 2 P's, alliteration there. We should speak about that. And William, I want you to chime in as well. Did Aston Martin, or should I say Racing Point, make a mistake there? Because the context I want to add to this new conversation is, bear in mind when Racing Point were on the ropes, they were in administration. Their owner, Vijay Mallya, was nowhere to be seen with the ongoing investigations into his finances.
I remember that.
And Perez was the life float that kept the team afloat, took his own money and sacrificed himself for the betterment of the team, only then to get dropped out for Sebastian Vettel, which, as much as I like Vettel's personality and what flavor he brings to the sport, as a driver, you could say is on the decline, maybe not as sharp as before. Was it right of Aston Martin / Lawrence Stroll to do that to Perez? Do they owe him like some form of loyalty?
You know what? I think you said the name right there, right? Stroll. I mean, my man has his son in the team, and Lance is, is he a Sergio Perez? I don't think so. I don't think he can hold up a candle to the guy. But at the end of the day, it's it has something to do with money, finances, and I know his father is going to give his son an opportunity to be the best that he can in a sport that he loves, and his father doesn't want to be the reason why Lance is not in the sport. So even though I don't think it was fair, I don't think Sergio deserved that. But from what it seems like as a whole picture, it seems like Sergio might be making the best of it at Red Bull.
Yeah, like a blessings in disguise almost.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was a farcical decision. I was gobsmacked when Perez lost his seat, because he didn't have to lose the seat. Getting Vettel wasn't the be all and end all, right? But clearly it was a business move. It was clearly a strategy where if you get Vettel in an Aston Martin, the marketing thing is just going to blow out of the water.
Booming.
And yes, you're right, William. There's no chance that Lance was ever going to get booted out.
The only thing I would say there, Peter, maybe is
Yeah.
only, and it's from more like just maybe how a father would think. Maybe Lawrence felt that having Sebastian in the team would help Stroll in his like development, learning from a 4-time world champion, seeing how he sets up the car, just seeing how his mannerisms are compared to obviously Sergio Perez, which we love, but obviously doesn't have the same accolade or clout in the game as well. That's maybe the only justification.
Let's be clear. If Aston Martin had a good car this year and Vettel was doing what Perez is doing this season, then it would feel very justified, the decision to bring in Vettel. I think with Perez, he must thank God he's not in that Aston Martin, because let's be clear, the Aston Martin is not doing well this year, the car as a whole. And of course, that's they had their issues with the high rake nonsense at the start of the season and whatnot. But whether or not, do you remember Perez won the race in Bahrain, didn't he? Right, and he was without a drive next season. This was a Formula One race winner without even a drive next season, and you could see that was what blew my mind. It's one thing to let one go, but how he was not finding a seat elsewhere was astonishing. Was absolutely astonishing. And so of course it was absolutely a bizarre decision when it happened. Especially because Vettel is just, for me, it's just poster boy. He's not got the pace anymore. He's not got the, was it 2019 or 18 when he ditched the car in Germany? That was when I said he's over, he's finished, and so to get him, it was all kind of like, it was very much PR and and whatnot. It was just so annoying. It was frustrating to see it, because we were going to let a good driver like Perez go. And that would have been shocking in Formula One for sure.
Do you all feel as though Sergio would be able to accomplish more than Vettel would if he stayed in that team and stayed in that same car? Even the way Aston Martin is set up right now, do you think if he stayed there, would he have accomplished more than what Vettel has done so far?
That's tough. Vettel's got a podium this year, hasn't he?
It's true, but Sergio Perez game podiums too. And I think the thing with them is they're almost two completely different style of drivers. I think in a way, Vettel comes from that Valtteri Bottas school of, he's just a very fast driver, and if you can give him the tools to do a job, he would do a job for you. Whereas with Perez now, I think it's more of a thing where maybe growing up, he never had the money to be in the most like prestigious go-kart or car. He's grown up like driving uncompetitive equipment, and as a result of that, now it's nurtured him to be able to get the maximum that he can out of a car, and that's why he can do these crazy performances where you could leave him out on tires for maybe 50, 60. You could leave him out on tires for the entire race, and if there's a safety car, that's when the killer bull comes through, because then he could pit and utilize that situation. Where I think with Sebastian, sometimes that communication and the strategy, you saw it a lot with Ferrari in his days there. The communication in terms of the pit stops or the strategy was a bit of a miss. Whereas at Red Bull, when he just had a car he could drive away and do hot laps with, completely different story.
Do you know, when Vettel was winning titles at Red Bull, do you know, I was such a hater, because I said all the ducks have to align and Vettel will always go and win races. But as soon as there's anything that requires your brain, or requires some sort of strategy, or requires whatever it may be. Vettel was always in trouble. I can't remember what year it is, whether it's 2010 or 2012, where Fernando Alonso, who should have been nowhere near him, right, in terms of the championship, and the title race went right down to the very, very wire, and Alonso was dragging a Ferrari over the line, and it clearly showed that, look who's the better driver here. So I've never been like Vettel's biggest fan ever, like, because I just felt like as in he just wasn't anything special. That's all it was. Not that he wasn't a good driver, but in Formula One, there was a clear, distinct difference between special drivers and then people who can drive a Formula One car well, and who would do better in the Aston Martin this year? I think they'll do exactly the same, because the car is bad, but also it's telling me that Perez is actually a lot better than we give him credit for. And I'm saying that Perez and a 4-time world champion would do the same in Aston Martin. So it kind of, you catch my drift. So I don't think necessarily Perez would have done more, but I do think he could have done exactly what Vettel's done so far this season. What do you think? Who do you think would have done better?
I probably would have. I agree with you all's points. But I think it would, at the end of the day, it's probably Sergio, because maybe that history with the team, and his understanding of that car. I think that, you're completely right. Vettel, as good of a driver as he is, I mean, let's go to, I was just looking over a moment that he had with Lewis, where I think it might have been Baku, and he thought the brake checking.
Yes.
And it was that moment where you kind of look at Vettel and you say, the boy is a problem behind the wheel, but at the end of the day, when you look at him, in some of those tight situations and tight moments, he might fold. And I don't think it was anything in that situation that Lewis was trying to brake check him. He just fell asleep behind the wheel, slammed into the back of Lewis, and then got upset and then rammed into the side of him. So to answer your question, I think it would have been Sergio Perez progressing that car. And like you said, with changing of the rake and all of that with the regulations, I think maybe Sergio may have been starting at maybe a higher playing field, rather than Vettel coming in from a whole new team and kind of having to start over again.
That's a very fair point. That's a very fair point. Well put. There's a lot of comments. Let me try and get through these as much as I can. I'm sorry, guys, for taking so long to get through the comments. But thank you so much for commenting on as well, by the way. Nando nearly won a race in 2014. Shopping trolley, unreal. Yes, he did nearly win a race in 2014. Let's see. Horner, the type to throw sand in regards to the fight. Yeah.
It's true though. That comment actually has some. It's in his nature to do something like that. That's what I'm saying.
No one here is even denying it. Like, it's true. We all said the same thing. Toto would obviously beat him up, but then Horner's got something on the side that could just completely level up this game completely. Big up Robinho. What you saying, my G? If you're a betting man, who takes the title? Oh God. Oh God. See, all year long, I just said someone has to slap 50 on Verstappen. This title race is on. The first race of the season, the first practice session, the first qualifying, and I saw a mean Red Bull. I said, it's time. Just throw those bills at it. It's time. But my God, honestly, you'd be stupid to bet against the 7-time world champion. You just be dumb.
Lewis Hamilton.
You just be dumb. Genuinely, if your house depended on it, I couldn't decide. It would have to be a roulette. I'd go Hamilton at this stage, personally. Go ahead, guys. Who would you put?
Man. You see, that is a tough one, because it could come down to anything. It's not even where you could say one has the upper hand than the other. It's very track dependent. It's very dependent on even the second drivers and what they do. It's the tightest one, man. But be it following the sport since like 1999, and just seeing Lewis come in from 2007, I just think he's just got that kind of experience of being in a title challenge. and knowing what he has to do. Whereas with Max now, you're seeing sometimes, even in the Brazil case, where like he knew he didn't have the fastest car that day, and he was very lucky, let's say, to not get a penalty for that move he did on Lewis. So I think sometimes that lack of experience of being in a championship fight sometimes works into Lewis's favor more than Max. But of course, Max is the Dutch lion. That guy, he doesn't fear no one at all. So listen, I don't want to write an essay, but me, I'm putting my house on Lewis.
Yeah. Go ahead, William.
So, man, you all make some fantastic points. I think I'm not the biggest Max fan, but I love what I'm seeing from a competitive standpoint from the Red Bull squad and Max Verstappen. I think going back into the beginning of the season, I thought I was going to see a repeat of what we had last year from where we started in Bahrain. And, even though Max put up a good fight, but ended up passing on the outside and having to give the spot back. And then it looked like Max had lost his tires and wasn't able to make a go at him again. You could see that there was that fight there from the Red Bull. Then they make these fantastic progressions that I feel made Mercedes not necessarily uncomfortable, but put them in a unique position that they hadn't been in ever.
Yeah.
And so, now what I'm seeing, what I feel as though is Red Bull has made all of these updates and upgrades, and then Max is just driving, and Perez is driving fantastically well. But I think that Mercedes, what they've done is it's the timing of their progression for me. It's the fact that they have kind of stayed on the heels of Red Bull. And then now that we're getting into these final closing races, now they're saying, okay, or what it feels like, they're saying, okay, now let's go past Red Bull. And it seems as though they've just, like Toto said in the post-race conference or presentation, is, let's get spicy, let's get freaky with it a little bit, and let's turn it up. So for me, it's the timing. So I'm doing an essay right now because I'm still trying to figure it out. To answer the question, if I was a betting man, which I'm not, but if I had to, I would put it on Lewis based on the timing alone of the way they're making this run right now.
Is there enough time for Red Bull to make some gains between the next two? Bearing in mind, I don't think there's a race next weekend, isn't there? It's the following week. So this triple header is out of the way. Now they've got a week and a bit to, regroup and then bring a monster if they want to out in Saudi Arabia and Abu Dhabi. Do you think there's enough time?
Pete, I think they're gonna have to get nasty, bro. I really think they're gonna have to get nasty because you see, like what William said as well. I wouldn't say that the championship was comfortable, but it was like, okay, they've got a good performing competitive car and a real charger in Max. You see now how Mercedes and particularly Lewis have come back and just like chopped down the deficit.
Yeah.
You can see that they're a bit rattled. I've seen them, you're gonna laugh at this, like they've been like fascinating over this Mercedes rear end, taking pictures of it with cameras, trying to explain, like, delusionally, like
giving it to Sky. Giving
like,
pictures to Sky. I'm thinking, what are you doing? What are you not doing?
like they're the FIA or something like that.
You
Like
know?
Sky are gonna like scrutinize the rear wing or something. They're really convinced that Mercedes are doing something illegal, and they might be justified in their suspicions with the sudden performance increase of the Mercedes.
Yeah.
But ultimately, for me, I think that it's the best opportunity they've had to win a championship. Whether it's on the track with the car, whether it's off the track with the stewards, whether it's off the tracks with the media, they will do whatever they can to win this championship. Because obviously, as we all keep alluding to, with the new rules next year, nobody knows what's going to be the outcome. And you have to be you must know something that we don't know if you think that next year's season is going to be like this year's season, because I don't think it will, with all the new regulations, new cars, and obviously the mix up as well.
My fear with new regulations is that there's always one team who gets it so spot on and is so far ahead of everybody else. And just as the pack was getting closer, Formula One loves to do this thing where they just break it up again. And it's like, the idea is that, so we can have more competition. And in fact, you're making it worse. You're now, start, do you remember the Ross, was it the Brawn in the 2009 with Jenson Button? They completely left everybody. Yeah, they left everybody. When, the Red Bull segment, when they came in and started winning titles, yes, there was more competition, but nonetheless, they were still, they won it 3 years, 4 years in a row. And then the turbo hybrid, Mercedes just came in and just said, see you later, Red Bull. Ferrari, who the hell are you? And gone. What we talking about? 7 titles, 8 titles in a row. So it's almost like now we've got the packs a bit tighter again. I'm concerned whenever new regulations come in place, even though they always sell it as a point of we're trying to bring the grid closer together. I'm always concerned by it. Mahat says that Red Bull defo going to bring upgrades to Saudi Arabia.
They might have to. They might have to. Because again, I don't know if you guys have seen the track. It's been released in the new Formula One game, so I was on that. And then of course I was on it, man. But and then on top of that, you've got obviously the YouTube kind of channel for F1 that did like an overview. Yes. It's a lot of straight lines. And what's kind of fascinating with the philosophy behind this racetrack is I feel we've got a lot of street circuits with lots of like fast straights, like Baku, for example. But the FIA, I think they listened to some of the feedback and they said, you all said that we make these, these street circuits with loads of 90-degree corners and loads of fast straights.
Yeah.
All right, then. Cool. Let's change it up. So you've got these kind of like very twisty and turny technical bits in the first sector. There's like a hotel section with a fast left-right chicane. There are bits which will strengthen towards the Mercedes. There are parts that will strengthen towards the Red Bull. Tire preservation, I think, will be key with just the amount of load going through the tires. We saw today how the tires played a very big role in the strategy and some punctures too.
Absolutely, yeah.
Red Bull, I think, will try and do what they can, whether it's in the form of making upgrades or bringing new upgrades or optimizing the car for the circuit. But of course, just, they will do whatever they can, I feel.
It's what I like about the unknown circuits because, nobody spoke about tire degradation before this weekend. And, we saw how many people's tires went out. What kind of damage hitting the curbs does to your car. Obviously, this is like a MotoGP circuit, the Qatar one. And so, we were learning things over the weekend, which was kind of cool. I like that because everybody gets to have a feel. Everyone sort of starts from the same place. There's no data to fall back on. And we could see something similar, in the weekends to follow. So, William, what do you reckon? Upgrades for the Red Bull?
I agree. They're going to have to. I think now you're talking crunch time. At the end of the day, right now, the only thing I didn't see a lot of this race that we're seeing in Brazil was maybe the higher trap speed that Mercedes had in Brazil. It was a little bit lower this week. So I'm wondering if I don't know if they're still running, the monocle levels of downforce as Christian Horner would talk about. Yeah. If they're going to be doing that going into this next track, because I agree, I saw that video on that's going to be Saudi Arabia. I mean, it's like the track looks like it's disguised corners, if you will. Like they look like the way the apex is coming, you don't really have to hit the brakes too much. You can still fly right through it. And then you don't have a whole lot of low speed corners, which I feel might be better for the RB car. So I think it's going to be, unless they have something of significance when it comes to being less draggy. I think they're going to have to do something because, it might be another, nail in the coffin for them on another race, and the way that team is set up at Red Bull, I'm willing to bet they're going to bring some upgrades. I'm willing to bet they're going to do it because it's too close. Once you have, just two more races left, they're going to spend some extra money. They'll pay a fine.
Yeah, you're saying they'll take the hit for whatever for whatever the case may be. Yeah,
Right.
I think they've got no choice, isn't it? I think their hand is kind of forced, because Mercedes have just pulled something out of the bag where we thought, wow, where's this come from? Red Bull have to now do the same. They've got to make us think, who put their house on Hamilton winning this title again? Do you know what I mean? That's the thing though. It's how exciting is it though to sort of, we can't wait to see that weekend come along and then all of a sudden watch the practice sessions. I've never watched so many practice sessions in my life as I have done this season, all because I care to just see the progression of each car. Like before, I'd just be like, yeah, whatever, I'll see the highlights or, give me the news, whatever it may be. But the fact that, cars are turning up, new engine, new power units, new this, I'm like, okay, let's see what they've got. Let's see what they have. If we just going back to a few of the comments that we were talking about earlier regarding to Lawrence Stroll, I think Mahad thinks that he probably paid Perez a good amount of money there, and quite possibly, just to say, look, thank you for saving the team, but your services are now done.
My team now.
My team, by the way. Yeah, exactly. Big up to the moaning Yorkshireman again. It was all for, so this is the Aston Martin Sebastian Vettel situation and the whole Perez thing. It was all for pure marketing, getting Vettel in the Aston Martin. Germany is the second highest country for purchasing Aston Martin cars behind the UK. It was a business move, nothing more.
Peter, you know what though? Aston Martin were just disgusting with the advert. Have you seen that advert in the UK? I'll probably have to send it to William as well to see what I'm talking about. But within at least, I think, a month, Aston Martin had this commercial with Sebastian Vettel in a DBX. Straight, he hadn't even turned a lap in the race car yet. They already started giving him the promotion. So just like,
honestly,
is that the one that it was he was in the snow? He was driving in the snow.
Like in the hills.
I saw it. Yeah.
The amount of advertisement that went behind Vettel with Aston Martin. I mean, Aston Martin as a whole. I mean, they were bringing in like UK artists that were sort of big. If you know Dave from the UK and whatever, like they were bringing in artists left, right, and center. They were doing. I mean, I've never seen a push in my life. In such a way, and it was something like, I think their marketing campaign was like I am, and it was like the AM obviously meant Aston Martin, but it was like I am Aston Martin, I am, a lot of British people they used behind that, and obviously James Bond, the whole it was sort of, it all kind of worked together kind of thing. They whoever their marketing department is, I'm sure got a good pay rise because they absolutely pushed everything with
Sean
that car.
Connery's still turning in his grave though. Still spinning in his grave though.
Listen, mate, Daniel Craig was taking that cash. Let me tell you, man, he was taking that cash for sure. Last couple of comments here. Ron Dennis was F1's equivalent to Jose Mourinho. Both take no prisoners. See, Christian Horner to me is the Jose Mourinho of Formula One. I put this tweet out the other day. I said, look, he's the villain that we need in the sport. We need to have someone that people can get angry at, or just somebody to fight for the front part of the grid. Nice guys are not going to always win this thing. Sometimes they do, but sometimes they don't. And we need somebody to, we can't let Mercedes just walk away. And I think Red Bull, we're adamant on that. We cannot let Mercedes just go off as they have done.
That last press conference between, whoever scheduled having Toto and Christian together was spot on. But the fact that they were, usually they're cordial with each other, even in media settings and things of that nature. But that press conference, I mean, with them sitting right next to each other, I've never seen Christian Horner like that. He was like, "Look, I don't have to go to eat with this guy. There's some respect there, but I don't know. All gloves are off right now. It's time to get to work, and may the best team win." And I'm with it. I don't feel as though, it's gotten too disrespectful. I think it was on the verge after the Silverstone race, after Max Was sent to the hospital, which, I completely understand. If I was in Christian's shoes, and I'm sure you guys as well, that's your guy, you're going to ride with him to the end, no matter what, And so I completely understand that. But, now that, some time has kind of passed that, and now we're doing everything on track, we're starting to see where the mentalities are, where both sides are kind of they're nip and tuck, they're like you mentioned, Vince, it's about, the pictures, and we're going to analyze that rear wing. We're going to focus on the performance of the of the engine and things of that nature. Now it's about the focus seems to be on track. Let's not take anybody out, that kind of stuff. I'm excited on what we're seeing from those two leaders. Just short of throwing those punches, like you said, and plus Christian Horner don't want no bump. Toto's too big of a dude. Plus, I think the guy lifts anyway, so
Yeah, he looks like he does. In fairness, he does look like he does. But yeah, you're absolutely. It's annoying because back in the day, you used to have. I say back in the day, but like you used to have a few team principals and like a few team drivers in the press conference at once. This one-on-one is like, it's been so bland and boring. But the fact that they did throw in whoever sanctioned it, you deserve a drink on me. Honestly, I'm very delighted that they're giving us this, and hopefully they might give it to us for the remaining two races. I think it only makes sense. It only makes sense to you. You want to say something, Denz?
No, I was disagreeing with you, man, because again, it's realistically those are the only two dogs left in the fight, and of course, from now we got two races, so it'll be interesting to know what are the teams going to do in the next two races, because they've got two shots at it, two opportunities. And like William was saying as well, things are going to change and things are going to be done because no one wants to lose. Mercedes, they already will go down in history as one of the most dominant and successful teams. But why settle for 7 when you can get 8? And adversely as well, obviously Red Bull, they've had their time. They're a team that don't have the history as a Mercedes or like a McLaren or Renault. But in this new modern day era where you don't have to be a manufacturer, you can be like a company, like a drinks company, a clothing company. It's a completely new avenue into the sport, and they want to be the best at it, And in recent history, they have been one of the best. So, no one's going to leave any stones unturned, I think.
They have got two shots at it, man, and we have to see. They got to have their aim right. They've got to have it spot on between now and the end of the season, and I can't wait. I'm looking forward to it. Two things before we leave. Your driver of the day, and when I say driver of the day, I want your podium. Who's your top 3? Who's the 3 people on the podium that you would have put based on their performance today at the Qatar Grand Prix? William, I'll start with you.
I've got to put, I'll start from third. I mean, I was particularly impressed with Fernando. I like what I saw out of him. He kept that position. I wasn't expecting him. I thought it was maybe going to be a slow creep back. At the highest, I thought maybe he might stay around that, maybe the top 5. But I didn't think that car had the pace in it. So salute to them. So salute to him, as a matter of fact. If I had to pick another driver, my second driver would probably be Lewis. He just stayed in first place. That car obviously had the pace advantage, and he just extended it out. For the whole duration of the race. I thought just the control that he had. But my final driver is probably going to be a one that I had to think about a little bit. But I would give it to Max, to be honest with you. I wasn't expecting, I don't know what the damage situation was, but it seemed like that front wing wasn't tip top. I don't know if he had hit a curb or something like. But his ability to kind of that start for me, to get around, and make up those places, to get around not only on the pretty much on the clean side of the track and make up those places. I would have to give it to Max as my driver of the day. But it was just an interesting race going around. I guess I just wanted to pick somebody that was just a little different, because at the end of the day, you know, my usual self might say, oh, the winner of the race would have to be the driver of the day. But, you know, if you're starting in first and ending in first, what adversity did you have to deal with? And, you know, in looking at the adversity aspect, I might have to, for me, I would have to give it to Max.
Fair dues. Dens, what do you reckon, man?
Yeah, similar thing to William as well. I agree with all the shouts that he made and suggestions. Really good, solid suggestions. I'll probably start from like third and then upwards as well. So I'd say third, Lewis, again, solid weekend, just doing what he needs to do, consistent drive. The actual race win never really seemed like it was a much change or challenge at all. But of course, it's because he put the work in. So, of course, got to respect that.
True.
Number two would have to be, I would say, Perez. Again, like not the greatest qualifying, but again, just keeping his head just down, making the progress from 11th place. And then actually, I think I could, just like Williams, I'd probably give it like a tie between him and Verstappen, because Verstappen had the last minute penalty as well, which again, just it can't be easy, you know, when you've got your mind set up on a certain thing, you're in the team debrief, you're having all these meetings about starting on the second row of the grid or second place, and then last minute you're starting at 7th, you know, and then you have to completely, you know, act on your instincts almost. So again, probably second, tied to Verstappen and Perez. This is a wild one. My honorable shout out, so I'm gonna drag it out a bit. Honorable shout out. I was meaning to ask you about this as well, Peter, last week. Mazepin. And I'll say Mazepin because he gets the reputation, obviously, for being a paid driver. We get that.
Yeah.
And his performance in Formula One hasn't really been anything, you know, to write home about. But where I kind of gained a bit of sympathy for him and where I think it shows that he actually cares is we had that moment last week in Brazil when he missed out on out-qualifying Mick. And he got quite emotional about it. And again, we like to see that Formula One drivers, unless they're Kimi Raikkonen, they're not robots. Like, they're capable of having feelings and emotions. And with him being somebody which, you know, I wouldn't say that he hasn't earned it, but he's had an easier road there because his dad can afford, you know, to give him the sponsorship. It was refreshing to see that, you know, he really does care. He wants to try and be on the same level as Mick, you know, and even though he's still not really there and I don't think he has the talent, it's still good to see that he wants it. So honorable shout out to Mazepin. Never thought I would say that.
That is amazing.
And then the first, obviously, I've got to give it to the wily old fox, Fernando Alonso, man. Like they say, old is gold, and I have to go. I have to go with that saying because, you know, like we discussed earlier, this is a man where he's evolved, and I think sometimes, like William was saying as well, sometimes it helps to go away from the sport to get a new perspective on things. He's learned to become more of a team player and have a bit more patience with the process, trust in the process. And, you know, he did it on the muscle. He did it really on his own strength. It wasn't a case of there being a red flag or, you know, there being some bizarre sort of circumstance or some sort of like circus scenario. He genuinely did it. And albeit maybe a bit lucky with Perez having to pit twice, that was still a strategy move, and they obviously made him go out long, and he executed the strategy. So again, fair play to Fernando Alonso. Got to respect it.
Yeah, I think you guys have made some amazing points. I think on those drivers, it's very difficult to even select my three. But
hey, who you got, man? Who you got?
in third place, I'm gonna go with Lance Stroll. The guy finished P6, okay, and the Aston Martin has should be nowhere near the top 6 in my opinion, especially how terrible that car is. But Stroll, my thoughts on Stroll as a whole, as a driver, I always think that there is something in there. There is a talented, fast driver in there, but he is young and he will make mistakes and he is still quite immature. And so there are moments where I get very, very frustrated with him because I think, you know, he really could become, you know, we could have him in the conversation of George Russell's and maybe Charles Leclerc's and people of this nature. I think there is a guy in there, and he does frustrate me. But if he's doing well, I have to always make sure I make sure I mention him because I think to be P6, and as you said, look, people's tires were blowing out and things of that nature. Don't get me wrong, But at the same time, I think his qualifying was awful. I think he just missed Q3. So I think he started in 11th, finished in 6th. He still did okay for a car that wasn't good at all. You know, it wasn't good at all. So I want to give an honourable mention there to Lance Stroll finishing in P6. I'm so sorry, Esteban Ocon. It was going to be you, but clearly the car that you had was better than Stroll's, and I just thought I had to give Stroll there. Number 2 will be Max Verstappen. I totally agree with what William said. He made the 5th-place grid penalty mean nothing because within laps he was in 2nd place. 4 seconds behind Lewis, and I thought, well, that was easy. Then let's crack on with the race. Let's crack on with our battle. Unfortunately, he couldn't be any closer because of the gap that Lewis had obviously maintained at the start. But I definitely think that Max, for what it's worth, and as you pointed out, Denz, to find out he's having to move positions so late in the day as well. It must have not been easy for him to get over necessarily mentally, but. One thing I have to give Max this year, my goodness, the mental strength he's had in comparison to previous years where he could have lost the plot. By now, he probably would have not been able to handle the pressure that he's under up until this moment. I don't think last season's Max or the season before, I don't think we would have ever got a cool head. And he's let his boss do the fighting. If you notice, don't get me wrong, there are situations where Lewis and him have had altercations, but I think he's had 2 DNFs, one of them probably being his fault, the other one's just a blown tire at Baku, right? So when you look at it like that, you think to yourself, what could have been? He could be world champion right now if he had won that race in Baku. Lewis Hamilton could be world champion if he didn't mess it up as well on the restart.
Magic.
So it's one of those where I have to give him credit. It looked like the adversity was strongly against him. We saw how Lewis responded last week in Brazil, and we're seeing how Max has responded here. Okay, he didn't win the race, but he did every damage limitation at its best. Fastest lap, P2. He still leads the championship, by the way. I know it feels like Hamilton's in the lead and it feels like the momentum's his way, but he's still leading the championship and it's still his to defend. So Max Verstappen, number 2. Number 1 has to be Fernando Alonso for me. I mean, what on earth has he got that, that Alpine doing up there on the podium as well? Remember, this team is behind McLaren and Ferrari. And in the championship this year, you've got Red Bull versus Mercedes, you've got McLaren versus Ferrari, then you've got AlphaTauri versus Alpine. Now, thanks to Alonso, Alpine are now going very clear ahead of AlphaTauri, which is a shock to me because I thought, maybe Aston Martin, Alpine, they'll have a little fight of their own. But Alpine, man, they've really grown over the season.
And what I was going to say as well, Pierre, sorry to cut you there, is I like the way they're going on about it. Like, they're not in this whole, we don't have the fastest engine, all this drama in the previous years between Serial and Horner over engine gates and stuff like that. They're just in their own lane now and doing their own thing, and they're coming on leaps and bounds. So I'm really happy to see the progress, seeing that they have a competitive car which won a race, obviously, in certain circumstances. But even today, just on pure merit, deserve to be there. So
absolutely,
got to respect them.
Renault did this last year. They were awful at the start of the season, and slowly but surely, I remember Ricciardo got into the podium and forced Cyril to get that tattoo. Do you know what I mean? And so, at the end of the day, like they are making their grounds. They're doing their thing. They've got an experienced man in Alain Prost in the paddock as well, which can only help. So yeah, big up to Fernando Alonso because I'm praying for more podiums, but whilst they're here, we might as well give it to him. Worst driver of the day. Who's your bottom 3? What is your worst podium of the weekend? We could be here all day, if I'm honest. We could literally be here all day. But who are your worst 3 drivers of the weekend? I will start. Do you want me to start off first so that you guys can have a moment to think?
Go for it.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah. I'm going to kick things off with Mr. Daniel Ricciardo because I'm getting furious with him at the minute. I'm getting very upset with him because it doesn't seem like, he even cares how bad life is right now and how bad things are. And I know that he's won a race this season. I understand all of that. But, man, Danny, like, where is the aggression? Because he was one of those his overtaking was something that was one to behold. You know, we love watching him send it, as they would say, and absolutely, you know, dive into the whether the inside or the outside of opponents. We're talking about in the pack where he's sort of handling himself, where he's like P13 to like P8, P9. There's not much movement there either. It's not like I'm saying, you know, you're not fighting the Red Bull, you're not fighting anything else. Like Lando Norris is showing him up. I will preference though, Lando Norris has the experience in the car. And I think that was more to your point, William, about Perez in the Aston Martin. When you know the car well enough, you kind of understand. There's almost a way you can't explain it, but the feel of the car, you completely marry the two together. But Ricardo, I expect so much better in a car that's actually not bad. We're not talking about the Renault here of last year. We're talking about the McLaren, you know, which started off so well, by the way. McLaren were gone and clear in third. And then I'm putting it down to him that Ferrari are even in the conversation in this competition. Because Ferrari shouldn't be ahead of them, because Ferrari finished 5th and 6th like every race. You know, where did they finish today? Oh, 7th and 8th, right?
There's a variation there.
They honestly, and what's funny is Leclerc and Sainz will finish side by side. They will always finish in the top 10, getting points here and there. But McLaren, it's like Norris can be P4 and Ricciardo can be P14. And that is so frustrating to me, because we're talking about a good driver in a good team. So what's going on? I would, in second place, I will put Sergio Perez, yeah? And I will say this because I know Sergio Perez overcame some adversity, but his qualifying stinks. And it's been stinking for a long, long, long time. Sergio Perez needs to find pace, you know, over one lap. Because if Bottas can do it, what on earth is Perez playing at? Now,
the two of them need to just teach each other, because they both highlight each other's strengths and weaknesses.
Exactly. You know, am I being too harsh? It's his first year in Red Bull. Maybe. We've had 20 races this season. You know, we are so, we're so far into the season, and I've got no progression in qualifying with Sergio Perez. Guys, he did not make Q3 this weekend. Okay. And that's not, for me, that's not acceptable. There was an AlphaTauri in there. There was 2 AlphaTauris in there. There was a friggin' Sebastian Vettel in the top 10 to start the race. So Sergio Perez, man, I love you, bro, but man, come on, I need something out of you guys. And number one, it's so funny because your honorable mention for good driver was Nikita Mazepin. He's number one for me because there was a moment in the race he was 1 minute behind Mick Schumacher. 1 minute. Do you know what a minute is like in Formula One?
I know, it's like a year.
It's a year. Okay, so in the same machinery as your teammate, what are you doing a minute behind him?
Hey man,
1 minute.
You have to finish, bro. Allow him, man. Allow him. He has to finish, bro. He has to finish. No. At least he finished today, man.
No. Well, it says here plus lap 2. So whether that's classified, I have no idea. When the checkered flag went, he was 2 laps behind. Okay, so look,
hey man, he finished ahead of Bottas. He finished ahead of Bottas, man. You gotta give him that, bro.
Everybody.
He finished ahead of Bottas, bro. That's what I'm saying.
Is that what we're doing? Yeah, he finished ahead of Bottas. Is that what we're doing? For me, I'm just it's just boring. I'm bored. Next season, hopefully the Haas is a better car. Let's see what you can do in that car. Clearly, Mick's career is on the balance, by the way, because if we get more of this could literally harm his Formula One career unless he gets the hell out of Dodge quickly and find a better team to work with. Honorable mentions as well is AlphaTauri as a whole, because what the hell happened?
Yeah.
What the hell happened to them over the race? After such an impressive qualifying, both cars in the top 10, both cars making it into Q3, I cannot believe what I saw there. So yeah, those are my bottom 3. Oh my God, did he?
He did, but caveat to Martin's comments. Caveat to that. Bear in mind, Russell had the puncture, didn't he?
Yeah, he did.
Russell had.
He ended up finishing 17th, and Mazepin finished 18th.
So we'll put asterisks next to that. I agree with Martin. It does look a bit sus, but I've done the fraud watch VAR check, and I think it's not a penalty because Russell had that puncture. So
yeah,
I think we could give him a bit of slack.
Before he turns up in the Mercedes next season, is George Russell the Williams Valtteri Bottas being
We'll
Mr.
find out.
Saturday, and then nothing shows up on a Sunday?
Obviously,
Because-
yeah.
I don't think so, because the race that George filled in for Lewis last year, he performed. If
He
it
did.
wasn't for actually a team issue, I think George has what it takes to make some noise under the Silver Arrows next year.
Yeah, listen, like I said, before he goes Mercedes, because I know Mercedes, he will actually perform pretty good. And like you say, in that, was it Sakir Grand Prix, he absolutely bodied Valtteri Bottas. He absolutely
Yeah.
rinsed him. So
Yeah.
I'm being harsh there. Was it no caveats?
No, hey man, I don't make the rules. I just explain them.
Listen, Martin's my guy. He's a regular watcher.
He's not
And
taking no prisoners, man.
listen, man, if you finish behind a Haas, you must get mentioned. You
Yeah.
must get mentioned. I can't lie, because I gave who did I bury last week? I think it was the Alfa Romeo finishing behind Latifi. I thought, hang on a minute, you can't be finishing behind Latifi. So it is what it is. It is what it is. William, let me get your bottom three, please.
So I love your bottom three, and you mentioned all of AlphaTauri. So I'm going to tap in with you on that one, and I'm going to mention Pierre Gasly. To start it at second, I thought that there was some pace in that car. To start at second and to end out, where did he end? At 11th, I believe.
11. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of tough to watch. I thought that there was going to be a little more consistency in that car to make a run, maybe at least in the top 5 somewhere, maybe top 8 at the lowest. I thought maybe would have been respectable. And then, my next would have to be Valtteri Bottas. I mean, the start was horrendous from the get-go. You talk about a Sunday drive. Oh my goodness. I mean, get the coffee, brother. I mean, so it just wasn't there as when they first left off the line. Valtteri just didn't have it. I think he ended up falling all the way down to 11th originally. So I don't know what was going on there. And I didn't hear anybody mention anything about any issues with the start or anything like that. So that's on me for that. And then my next would have to be Danny Rick. I thought Ricardo was, he was just, for me, he was just missing in action. I thought that, again, this is more or less probably a trend for the season. I come in every race rooting for the guy, maybe because it's him. It's just hard to not root for him.
Yeah.
And then you know that the progress that the McLaren has made over the course of the season, maybe not in these last couple races, they've been having difficulties. But I was expecting a little bit more pace out of him, for the whole duration of the race, and I wasn't getting it. So he would probably have to be my number one guy that I would probably say was kind of disappointed me a little bit.
I agree.
Disappointed me all season, that man. All season. Denz, let's get your bottom three.
Yeah, you guys stole my thunder, man. Very similar points to what I was gonna raise. Number 3, I'm gonna put Bottas and Mercedes there as a joint donkey of the day in position 3 because Valtteri didn't help himself with obviously the horrendous start that William talked about. No mention of any problems or contact or launch control off the start of the race. Obviously, then when Toto gave him the kick up the backside, he started to make a bit of progress, which was nice. But then I think Mercedes again were just sleeping. Like all the mechanics, I think they were just watching Lewis Hamilton just slap everybody up with just like those sensational purple laps because they completely forgot about Bottas, left him out to dry, and those tires just popped like a pimple. It was ridiculous.
Wow, you're blaming the team for the tires, yeah?
For the puncture, absolutely, because obviously Perez had already pitted, Max had already pitted. Lewis had already pitted. Who else were they trying to fight against?
Were they covering? Yeah,
exactly.
At the time, was he was in third at the time, right?
He was. You're right, William.
Yeah.
So it's like they were getting greedy, and almost trying to, I think, leave it really long so then
Yeah.
they could have like fewer laps on the tires, so they'd have fresher tires to attack Perez.
Maybe
with.
they wanted that one too that Valtteri has been complaining about.
Yeah, that's true. But again, it's ambition over adhesion, and I think
Yeah.
sometimes Valtteri doesn't help himself with the situation. And then just to put salt inside the wounds, Mercedes also to say, oh yeah, shucks, we got a second driver. God damn it. All right, cool.
Yeah,
Like, where is
yeah,
he?
yeah.
So to summarize that one, definitely Mercedes and Valtteri. I think they dropped the ball and that come very big in the constructors fight. I agree with you guys as well with position 2 for Gasly and Toro Rosso again. And you know what's the most ironic thing?
The disrespect.
Gasly
Toro
caused.
Rosso.
Yeah, I don't even call him AlphaTauri, man. Forget that. Toro Rosso. I'm one of the OGs, so I'm going back.
Yeah, one of the OGs.
I'm going back.
Yeah.
Yeah, just the weirdest kind of inception of it is Gasly started like P2 on the grid, but he's the one that caused the yellow flag to begin with. So
Yeah.
he created his own scenario and actually
Yeah.
benefited from it too, which
That
is
was clutch.
crazy.
That was
Which
so
is really
clutch.
crazy. And then I
Yeah.
think again, Alpha, and maybe I can't be too harsh on them, but the lack of experience with the circuit. Obviously, it's the first time we've been here. There's no historical data. But I think they committed to the 2-stop too early. And when that happened now, it then gave Fernando Alonso the opportunity to either go long and do the 1-stop, which is what he did,
Yeah.
or obviously to just see kind of what the tire degradation was on the other cars. Whereas I think with AlphaTauri, I can't remember if they were the first to pit amongst the first set, or if they copied somebody else in fear of the
Oh,
undercut.
no, I think they were the first. I think it was between Gasly. It was Gasly. I think was first.
Sonoda. I think it was
Sonoda?
Sonoda.
It was
I think it was
Sonoda.
Sonoda that pitted first.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what they could have done is used Sonoda as like a guinea pig just to see what the wear was like, and then if anything try and follow Alonso. But I think they got very cautious, or maybe too trigger happy with pulling Gasly in as well. And of course, he just fell through the field. So to qualify or to start the race in second, and then to drop to 11th, not good enough, and they'll be really punching themselves. They didn't get any points, and the nearest rivals, obviously, Alpine with Alonso and Ocon, got that top 5 finish. So not good enough. And then I'm gonna be a bit different, a bit outlandish. My last one for P1 of worst of the day. It has to be the FIA. This is the second week now. This is the second week now, and I'm gonna start firing shots at them where these decisions, they're not consistent enough and they're taking too long. Like it's good to have certainty. That's what the fans want. That's what the fans need. And I think in a way, PR will make a good segue into this latest bit of drama we have off the track.
Yes.
With apparently now Christian Horner being called to the stewards over some very spicy comments he made about the FIAs and the marshals.
Yes. I mean, it's one thing after another, isn't it? We haven't heard any news yet as to what's happening, and guess what? We probably won't hear anything until Saudi Arabia, right?
But Pete, do you want to explain to them, just to the viewers that might not know what it was that happened?
Well, interesting. You might have to be careful because you might be summoned to the stewards as well. Because
this is what freedom of speech, man. Of course, my amendment rights.
Exactly. This is what Christian Horner has been sent to the stewards for. Apparently, he's breaching sporting code, whatever that may mean. Where he basically said that the stewards had ballsed up the decision in regards to Max Verstappen's situation. And
yellow flags.
And then, about the yellow flags, there was a double wave yellow. So he was saying there was a rogue steward who just threw 2 double yellows. Meanwhile, when Bottas's yellow, the reason why Bottas got a 3-place grid penalty and Max got 5 is because Max drove at the same speed on double yellows, whereas Bottas drove at the same speed on a single yellow. So, and then also the drivers have data going into their steering wheel, so they will know as well on their steering wheel whether it's a yellow flag, it's a double wave yellow, blue flags for whatever else. So the steering wheels did not react. None of the digital data reacted, right? And then But then you've got the flags waving on the left-hand side. At the same time, you've got Gasly's car that's on the start-finish line. That's just sort of stationary. So as a driver, you've probably got your attention on there, not seeing the yellow flag on the opposite side. According to the racing, is it the race director, that the track was fine to continue, hence why nobody got anything digital on their steering wheel. So it's like, you said it's good, you said it's bad, and you're saying this is really bad for the same scenario. So you're getting 3 or 4 different kinds of information, and Horner was absolutely hacked off. He just said, look, there's a rogue steward. You don't need to get your marshals in check. You know, he mentioned they need to get their marshals in check. And he says the FIA have ballsed up the situation. Those were his words. And honestly, you just have to, because even when when the coverage started for the race, I didn't know who's starting where. All I heard was, Norris could start on the front row. I thought, Norris, how the heck's he getting there? then it was, Gasly could be on the front row, or Alonso could be here, Verstappen could be there. It was an absolute Western mess. Honestly, it's unbelievable, mate. It's just unbelievable. It's just, I don't know.
It's a joke, which is why I've given the FIA that they have to hold that, because these decisions, they're getting out of hand. But I can see it from 2 perspectives. Obviously, on one side, when you see a double yellow flagged, that is one of the most serious things. It means marshals are on the track. So you cannot gray or distort the lines with that, or allow people to be seen to be getting away with it. Because, of course, it's such a danger. It can be a dangerous sport. You don't want to see marshals that obviously, the marshals don't even get paid. They volunteered to do the work, obviously being put at risk of drivers just driving full throttle when they should be really lifting off. But then I agree with you as well, and I could understand where Christian was coming from, although I think the comments are maybe a bit harsh, in the sense of you need certainty. And it's just funny how it was so confusing. Even when I was watching the qualifying live, I was like, wait, is it yellow? Is it not yellow? There's a yellow in sector 3. There's not one in sector 2. Oh, now there's one in sector 2. Like, what it is? What is it? And it's tough because it's a new circuit, of course. And, maybe there's, again, the fact that it's so new, it's hard because there's no precedent before. So we wouldn't know what a yellow is or shouldn't be. And even this Gasly's puncture, it's really weird to see a front wing rip off like that and then completely deconstruct the tire within a couple of seconds. So they had to react very quickly. And, it goes both ways. But FIA definitely have to hold donkey of the day for me for the recent kind of form of decisions. But the decision with Christian Horner and being called up to the stewards for the comments he made, what would be the outcome of the comments, and what will be the penalty? Would you get fined? Would the team get fined? What would happen if you talk badly about the FIA and they feel that your comments are unjustified or put the sport in a negative light?
It's weird because it's so unlike Christian Horner, because they came back to him post race and he was like, I didn't mean anything personal. If I did, I apologize. I just want to say that the stewards are doing a fantastic job. And I was like, whoa, Christian, pump the brakes. What I need is that, they were rubbish. They were awful.
Keep that energy.
Thank you. I wanted him to keep that energy because he plays to the villain, but at the same time, I think he's got a very valid case. Carlos Sainz doesn't get penalized for almost the same scenario. It's a bit weird, when you've got different waves of information sort of being trafficked, to get to a driver. It's very, very difficult. And I think that the benefit of the doubt should be there. I don't see why, what did he really say? How politically correct are we going? How far is it going to go here?
Hey, man, so he's implying that the FIA man them are doing fraud and that. So I'm just saying,
it's like
it took them a very long time to release that footage as well. So technically, the FIA be doing some shady stuff behind the backgroround, boy.
Listen, man, I don't get why we can't, you see something that's wrong or questionable, VAR, let's check this and done. Let's just get it over and done with. This idea that I see Bottas and whoever else, I see, Verstappen qualified second when I went to bed last night. Why have I woken up today and he's P wherever he is, 7 or whatnot? Come on. It just doesn't make any sense to me. They need to get their finger out. Just deal with this matter once and for all. Big up to Zachariah, who says, in the end, I don't think it would have changed much in terms of where Max finished. That's very, very true. Can't say the same for Bottas. Yeah, Bottas probably would have been more impactful had he not got his 3-place grid penalty. But again, the Bottas we're seeing does he even care at this rate? And that's probably why Christian Horner is not going to appeal. I think he thinks it's not going to be worth the point. I think there will still be some more spicy talk come towards the end of the.
Wings and things.
Oh, don't worry, man. Wings and things are coming,
Wings
mate.
and
Wings.
things.
Oh, it's good. Trust me, I'm telling you, he's got like 2 or 3 folders still left in the bag to just pull out and be like, by the way, what did he say? Since Hungary, he looked at that rear wing. Since Hungary, my friend.
He's been salivating.
What?
He's been looking at that Mercedes rear end and saying, it looks like it had like a BBL or something. That rear end of the Mercedes. It's looking
Not
a
a
bit too
BBL.
Kardashian for me.
Honestly. We got to Stu MC. You got another comment earlier. I'm going to get to it. Don't worry. Horner and Toto are both a pair of unlikable. I don't think that's fair. None of them are worthy of winning. Pair of losers who do nothing but whine. This is the game,
who
baby.
Do you want to win, man? This is who you rooting for?
Yeah.
I want to know who's
crunch time, man. All gloves off.
This is it, man. I mean, this is. I don't know about you. I'm entertained. I like this. I want some fight. I want somebody to stick it to Toto. I want Toto to stick it to whoever. Whoever's winning. Like, I need this. If Horner was not this aggressive, Red Bull would not be aggressive at all. I don't think they'll be anywhere near it. Because you know what? What we see on camera is one thing. I wonder what it's like off piste. I wonder what it's like when they go back to the factory. Those pit stops that they do in 1.9 seconds, 2.2 seconds, 2.3. Do you think that's just because, they're just so talented, they just come in, do their job and leave? No, a rocket has been thrown at them and said, guys, we have to beat Mercedes in every other department if we can't beat them on pace. We've got to do something, So I don't know, man. I feel like you're missing it, Stu. You're missing it. I feel like there's a reason we need this kind of rivalry in the sport. It's what keeps us ticking. It's what keeps things going. He mentions this as well. It's funny how the British media despise the Ferrari, the Scuderia era of 2000 to 2004, yet love Merc dominance, which has doubled the length in years, right? Anglophile bias is truly a thing.
Hey,
you know
what? He has a point. I'm sorry to cut you there, Pete. It is kind of true because people are making a point of Damon Hill was challenging Christian Horner quite a lot in the Sky presentation.
Yes.
And a lot of Max fans are saying that the reason why Damon Hill is challenging a Christian is because he wants Lewis to get his 8th World Championship and supersede Michael, because Michael was Damon Hill's biggest rival. And I never really had thought about it, but I was like, they might have a point. Damon might actually have an agenda against Michael Schumacher, of course, and he might just be like a British driver just wishing to support another British driver on to win the championship just because. Of course, there's going to be an element of bias in it. And I think no matter what, when you have one car that's always winning, there's always going to be some media or some select group of fans which are not going to ride with that kind of predictability.
Yeah. I think as well, every country will have its bias, as in a natural way. I totally agree with you, Stu, in that if this had been Schumacher doing 7 years or 8 years of dominance, boy, we would not hear the end of it. I totally agree with it. But if we go to Nuremberg or if we go to Germany and listen to the press there, it's like they would laud Schumacher. They would laud whoever the native, driver is at the time. And I feel like here, we don't laud Hamilton at all. Like, I always feel like the UK has let him down. Does that make sense? In terms of just like the support, the way we put some people in such high esteem. We put some people on a pedestal on the highest level ever, and they probably deserve it and whatever else. But Hamilton will not get that recognition, I don't think. It's everybody outside of the UK who seems to love Hamilton. Last week when he had the Brazilian flag at the Brazilian Grand Prix, it spoke volumes to me. During the English national anthem, and he's got the Brazil flag wrapped around him like that. And I felt like, because we saw how much of a great crowd Brazil was for Lewis, right? It was unreal.
It's not Lewis, it's Louise.
It's Louise.
It's Louise. Say it again.
It's Louise. It's one of. I totally do agree, though. Look, media is gonna be biased. Like, if we're looking for media to be morally, in the right direction, we've got a long way to go. I wouldn't even go anywhere near that. But Let's get through some more comments. Fair play to you, Stu, man. I support quality racing. I'm not bothered about who wins. Lauda had true character, fight, and style. And
True.
that's very true. I think as well, when you have somebody like a Lauda, it's hard to argue the other cases, isn't it? Because it shows that there can be somebody with good character. There can be somebody who uh, doesn't have to be spiteful, doesn't have to be cynical, doesn't have to be strategic, and it's just one of those where it's like, in this occasion, it is what it is. It's here, it's now, and that's it. And yet, back in the day, it could have been different. It could have been dealt with a much, much, much better way. So, different years will have different types of fights, and we'll have different types of people, different types of characters. Do we have a preference? Probably, but yeah, I'm here for it. What do you guys think on this comment?
Look, unconscious bias, right? There's always going to be someone who we adorn, especially now that each decade we're getting kind of like that changing of the guard. So we're going to have somebody that we fall in love with, and in looking back at who Nicky Lauda was for. At least during the duration of his career, he wasn't the most well-liked individual.
Yeah.
But on racetrack, he was a dog, right? And he knew his stuff. He knew about engines and components and things of that nature. And he was a dog on the racetrack. At the end of the day, isn't that what you want your racing driver to be? Not everybody is going to be well liked throughout the whole paddock, but at the end of the day, it's good to. What we're seeing now is a group of guys who are friendly with one another. You got some that are. It seems like Lewis might be on the outside of that. Everybody else, and watching some of the pre-race stuff, everybody was kind of friendly with one another on the back of the truck this morning. But Lewis and Bottas were kind of like off to the side, which is kind of unique to see. But at the end of the day, I think like Stu said, it's about the quality racing. It's about you want to see individuals that don't get too high, don't get too low, especially during the media stuff. I agree with this comment. It's about the racing. It's about who comes out on top.
And also, just to add there as well, I mean, Martin's given a different. So Stu was saying how the British press have kind of bred Mercedes, and then on the flip side, Martin's made a caveat kind of comment and said, well, Paul di Resta and Mark Webber and David Coulthard have been in the Red Bull kind of camp, and they always highlight the good stuff that Max does. And they're very quick to obviously criticize Lewis when Lewis makes a mistake. So I think in the world that we have, you always have two sides, two fences. Formula One's almost become quite tribal, a bit like football as well, where people have their own camps. And obviously, I think to a degree, it's nice to have that kind of variation. It's just sometimes a bit sad when it goes over the line. I think it becomes disrespectful.
Yeah. And as Martin is saying here, in Netherlands, they love Max, and I'm pretty sure they do. I'm pretty sure we could go over and watch some Dutch TV and find out, they might be saying bad stuff about Lewis, or they might be saying, oh my God, Max Verstappen is a generational talent. He's going to be the greatest ever. He hasn't won a championship yet, but I totally understand it. Like we back your people, if they're from your. And I swear he was born in Belgium as well, right? It's just I think he's of Dutch descent. Obviously, remember his father Josh, who used to.
Oh, don't get me started on Just Bay. He was. We don't talk on that one.
I've always thought Lewis should have repped Grenada, and said to hell with the British campers. Half the problem is the moronic press. It's so sad. Do you know what? I think is it the press? I would say it's more so just the fan base of Formula One. I find more hate in the fan base of Formula One than I do the press necessarily.
But sometimes I'm actually gonna interject there, Pete. Stu kind of has a point because remember that time it'll be interesting to explain obviously to William too. We've got that show that is it Talk Sport? we had
Yeah.
Talk Sport, and we had a old footballer, which he said, "I don't like Lewis," and it
Ali
wasn't
McCoy.
Ali McCoy. There we
Ali
go.
McCoy. Yeah, yeah,
And it wasn't saying it's not that we have an issue with you not liking someone.
yeah.
You're entitled to have your own opinions on who you like and who you don't like. It was when he was asked why don't you like Lewis Hamilton, it was the answer started to get a bit suspect like, and it was a bit
He was stuttering, man. This guy was acting.
mm,
He was on the ropes. They had him on the
mm.
ropes, man. Yeah, it's like, unfortunately, when you're a black person, small things start to go really against you. Whereas if you're not, you may get away with it. So in times where Lewis might be like, yes, get in, or, he might be a bit more arrogant in terms of, talking about how, remember the mic drop he did in the press conference before the race when he was
Yeah.
like, at the end of the day, I won the race. That's the end of that discussion in regards to the turn 4 incident. And people were just saying, look how arrogant he is and blah, blah. And it's like, damn, he doesn't have to, you have to walk on eggshells with certain fan bases whereby, all of a sudden it's like, if I say anything, it's going to be me construed as a completely wrong kind of individual that you're making me seem to be. However, if I was David Coulthard and I said that, I remember he was like, what did he say about Schumacher? He said something about Schumacher that kind of got brushed, completely brushed, where it was like, whoa, David, I don't know if you can actually say that, but hey ho. Yeah.
Now, what is the UK media? I guess who do they follow as far as being that hometown guy? Is it more of a Norris or
It's
George Russell? Who do they
Yeah,
normally
Go ahead,
I was
Mo.
follow
gonna
at that?
say Norris is like the media's sweetheart, William. Honestly, like he goes on
Okay.
this we like a bit like CNN. We have something in England called Good Morning Britain. So
Yeah,
after the
I'm familiar.
Russia defeat, where Norris again howler didn't pit for the wet tires.
Yes.
He
Mhm.
was on this show called Good Morning Britain, and he was
Yes.
speaking about his emotions and how you deal with
Mhm.
depression when like you get close to success and you don't get it. But then
Mhm.
also the media started doing this thing where it's like they're turning against Lewis and they're almost crowning Russell to be the next Mr.
Mm.
AMG, Mr. Mercedes, Mr. Saturday and Sunday now too.
Mhm.
So the good
Mhm.
thing, I guess, with Britain, because of the heritage of the sport and the first Grand Prix being held in Silverstone, is that they're always up to support their drivers. But it doesn't really seem that they're so bothered with Lewis anymore because he's been there and done that. They're more on
Yeah.
board, it seems, with
Looking.
Norris and Russell. And I'd probably invite Pete to answer that question as well.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think so. I think now that you got Russell, like, big up to Nathaniel. I'll just jump onto your comment, mate. He literally says that now that Russell's in the Merc, now you're going to see it. What many people have thought, you're probably going to see it a lot more in its relevancy, because I think, it's so interesting you brought up that Good Morning Britain interview where we're talking about his mental health and things of that nature, and it did make me think, that's very, very interesting, because whenever I've seen, let's say Lewis has flopped or has done something wrong on the circuit or whatever else, it's his antics outside of things. It's the fact that he's in New York in parties, he's a
Mhm.
fashion icon, he's doing this, that, and the other, issues with his girlfriends of the past and things like that. Loads of other stuff get brought into this conversation, and you're just like, wait a minute, like, come on.
He's
He made a mistake. He's a human being,
yeah.
just in the
Mhm.
same way everybody else is a human being, and they make mistakes.
Mhm.
So
But with
it's
Lewis,
just,
they don't speak
yeah,
about it. They kind of like with Lewis, it's like when he gets abused,
yeah,
when he goes through times of like tribulation and kind of
yeah,
has to deal with it. No one has that level of like compassion or sympathy for him. And
yeah,
also you
Mhm.
can see that just in the Verstappen crash at Silverstone, when Verstappen got obviously pushed out and it was a terrible accident, I really was feeling quite heart sunken when I saw the crash
yeah,
and it was such a high impact speed. You never want to
yeah,
see anyone go through that. But the way that the media reacted to Lewis and brandished him as a dangerous driver, should be disqualified, should
yeah.
be banned
Mhm.
for a couple of races. But then literally Verstappen was on Lewis Hamilton's head top and it was just looked at as well, it's just racing, and
And
just two
yeah,
drivers and leave space for each other. There is a kind of difference in the way that the two of them are perceived, and you see that portrayed in different ways.
Mhm.
yeah. There's so much of a, it's a very complex, conundrum that we're in. It. it will be interesting to see how next year goes for sure. But yeah, I would say so. Lewis gets a lot of love. Let's make no mistake about it. He
Yeah,
is
yeah.
he's a
Yeah.
global icon, right? So
Mhm.
wherever we turn up, and you will see a lot of Lewis flags. You'll see a lot of Lewis Hamilton support, no doubt about it. Um, but I do think as soon as the George Russells of the world and the Lando Norrises of this world, as soon as they get anything, you watch them be put in high esteem, in
Pete, they're
absolute high
already
Mhm.
esteem.
doing it because another narrative I see with the media is they say, "Oh, Russell's going to Mercedes. Let's see if Lewis can defend his title. Let's see how
Mm,
Lewis does." Bear in mind,
Yeah,
mm,
Lewis doesn't need to prove anything. He's a seven-time world champion for a reason. OP
yeah,
car, no OP car,
yeah,
hybrid, not hybrid. He's raced with the likes of Alonso, Raikkonen, Schumacher, Vettel, you name it, and he's
yeah,
been
yeah.
there, done that. It's Russell that needs to prove himself, and next year will be a probationary year for him because at times he's been exceptional, and I have to really take my hat off to him because he was amazing in F2, whipped everybody. He's come to Formula One, and unlike obviously Leclerc, Albon, and his age mates, he's never been
mm,
given the same opportunity or equipment. But
mm,
there have been times too where he's let things get to his head. There was the race in Imola last year where he made the mistake underneath the safety car. There's
yeah,
also this year, he has something with Imola. There was this year at Imola too, where he wrote off Valtteri Bottas, and then he didn't take any blame for it. He blamed Bottas, and he's the one
yeah,
that caused the incident as
yeah,
well.
yeah. I
And I
was
think
furious at that one. I was furious at that
absolutely,
one.
and
Um,
what I like about Toto is a bit like how Ron Dennis was with Lewis. He doesn't want Russell to just become unruly or do his own thing. He wants Russell to earn his stripes and grow up through the system organically.
mm,
So
Mhm.
it'll be interesting, but the media already have this vision that Russell's going to be the one putting the pressure on Lewis, and it might not be the case. I expect him to be there, but I still think he's
yeah,
got a lot to learn, which is great because he's under one of the greatest to do it, to learn from.
exactly. Um, Martin was saying that as a Grenadian man himself, he's always been a part of it. I guess in terms of Lewis, just look, been off that off the British flag and rock on to the Grenadian flag. No, I'm convinced Crofty and Kravitz hate Yuki Tsunoda. Interesting,
Mm,
Kravitz. Oh,
Mm.
I didn't know. I need to check, have
Yuki
a look
does
at
get
that.
a bit of stick though. I can't lie, he does. But then sometimes he's very rash and very raw, and
Do you know
he
what though?
doesn't see. Go on, sorry.
Yuki surprised us at the start of the season. Do you remember? Because he was out of the blocks, and it was like,
Mm,
whoa, look at this guy, he's
mm,
cold. And
mm,
then he completely fell off. And it was a bit like,
yeah.
like he was on the radio, he was very angry, he was swearing at his team, and da, da, da. And it
mm.
was a bit like, young buck,
Discipline.
you're a newbie in
Yeah.
this game, just relax,
Discipline.
type of thing. And I think, and I think we have to differentiate criticism with hate and
Mm.
all of these other things, because you could say something bad about somebody, it doesn't mean that it's you
Hate.
hate them. It's just because of what.
Mm,
Look at the product you're giving me. I want to discuss what you've just done there, and that's
mm,
because I think even Zachariah is making the point here that no way Max gets loads of hate. Are you kidding me? Max to me gets more hate in terms of the fan base in the UK anyway. I
mhm,
can't speak for elsewhere, but let's say on Twitter, for example, I see more Max slander than I see Lewis
mm,
slander. I see a lot of people backing Lewis. I think as a case of they're coming in defense of Lewis because of what he's had to go through. So a lot of
mm,
people really feel like, nah, man, I need to ride for my guy, kind of thing.
mhm,
It's
Mhm.
it's it's a whirlwind. Like I said, it's a very complex grid here that we can't just say it's this and it's that and that's the end. It's definitely a mixture of everything, and perception is key.
mm.
Sometimes something will
Yeah,
look
depends on what side of the fence you're looking at. But just to caveat Martin's
exactly.
point as well,
Yeah.
I can kind of see where he's coming from because sometimes it feels as if the pundits only focus when, like, Perez makes a mistake or when Verstappen makes a mistake, it will get picked up. They'll speak about it. But when it's like obviously Yuki or when it's obviously Mazepin, they'll turn it into a joke. And I wouldn't say it was poor taste. I think it was banter.
Hmm.
But when Crofty said that comment in, I think it was Austria, where he said, "Oh, my son made a joke. We got a Netflix
Huh.
series, and it's gonna be a spin-off." Obviously, like having a pun
Yeah.
on the word spin-off and
Yeah.
Mazepin. Like, it feels sometimes like they do kind of like corn some of the drivers more than others. And I think if you're going to do that, you have to distribute the shellings a bit more
Evenly.
fairly.
Yeah.
I think that's probably a fair point, fair assessment on that. I'd say Max gets a lot of hate for little things that are said too. To be honest, really depends on the crowd. Yeah, and that was my point. Like perception. Depending on which side of the fence you see it, I think both get their share. Everybody gets their share. I think.
Yeah.
Personally, that's the problem with this sort of stuff, isn't it? It's not necessarily one word against the other, but it's a case of both can be right. Nobody has to necessarily.
Half full, half empty. Like, it
You
depends on
understand
your
what I'm saying?
perspective.
Yeah. Let's see here. What? So they're very harsh on Yuki in terms of sorry. They are very harsh on Yuki in terms of criticism compared to the other rookies.
Well, what I would say with that is Yuki's in the most competitive car out of all the rookies I'm aware of. Because you've got Mazepin, Schumacher, and Yuki. Those are only rookies on the grid as far as I'm aware, right? So
Someone's
Mazepin,
staring us in the face, and it's like, what? But yeah, no,
who's this person you left out?
I think you're right. No, I think you're right.
So Yuki's in the most competitive equipment out of all three of them. So therefore, there's a standard that's going to be placed there. And to be fair, I don't think he's had a howler, but I think you hit the nail on the head earlier, Peter, when you said he came in with this fire. And I think sometimes you have to nurture that talent a bit, because you can see he's got the pace. He clearly has it, but when he's swearing at the team and he's like, saying, "Oh, effing traffic paradise," and like these Kimi Raikkonen explosive moments, you need to nurture that, because you don't want him to go off the road. You don't want him to shoot before it's his time to shoot. I've even heard disciplinary issues where Franz Tost had to make him move from the UK to Firenze in Italy because Yuki wasn't taking his training regime seriously.
Interesting.
So clearly, it's a thing where I think maybe it's his attitude, and it's quite funny in that Red Bull stable. You get a lot of these fiery youngsters which are rearing to go, but you don't want them to shoot before their time, because we've seen it with the likes of Gasly. You've seen it with Kvyat. Sometimes when you promote them too quickly, or when you don't stomp down on discipline quite early, they can completely go off the rails, and then it's hard to reel it in. So definitely with Yuki, I like him. He's a funny guy, but sometimes he's been a bit hot. And when you're young and you don't have credit in the bank, obviously the more experienced drivers, they're gonna come for your neck a lot quicker than they would the others. So some of it's justified, some of it I would say is a bit harsh in what Martin's saying there.
Go ahead, William.
I agree. I'm gonna say this before I have to cut out. And again, I appreciate what you guys are doing. I'm a fan of the show, and I appreciate you letting me to come on and speak with you guys, and hope to maybe one day do it again. But I will say this, Yuki, I think it's mostly the antics on the radio, how he communicates with the team, and his level of in the heat of the moment, it can be perceived as disrespect, right? And then at the same time, as you were mentioned, Vince, I think at first, even when he found out he earned the drive or got the drive for next year, he was even shocked. He was like, "Look, I kept on crashing. I didn't even." He was even shocked. Yeah. So I think for Yuki, I think he's obviously an exceptional talent. I think he does have a good product under him as far as the AlphaTauri car is. It's just trying to, as you mentioned, toning yourself down a bit when the times get a little difficult, and not allowing other drivers to get under your skin. And maybe it might, in some of those situations, it may have affected some of his drives. I think it did on some circumstances. But I think he's going to be a problem for years to come. It's just trying to, kind of get that experience down, and he's still working on that. So.
Yeah, I think as well, Yuki, at the beginning of the season, as I said, he started off strong, and then very quickly it turned left, didn't it? He had a few issues. I remember his crash was in Imola, where it was like, I think it was in the practice run as well, and he was making a lot of somebody's mentioned it here, unforced errors. Yes, Scoop on Football has mentioned that there was a lot of situations where you think, you know what, Yuki, I don't know, but I think his stock went high very quickly, but then at the same time, I think our expectation of him kind of drowned very fast. Zachariah says that anyone that watched F2 would have known that he's always been that way, very feisty on the radio, and it's part of what got him into F1. So it's no surprise to me. And there were plenty of people who did watch F2. Me, I didn't watch it, but people were talking about watch out for this guy. People that watched F2 were telling me watch out for Yuki. He's a very talented driver. He came with good stock. Do you know what I mean? He came with good stock into the Formula One championship season. Yuki is also mad slow in comparison to Pierre Gasly. He's the sole reason AlphaTauri are battling with Alpine in the Constructors' Championship. I think that's harsh because he's a rookie. He's a rookie. You know what I mean? I find that a bit harsh that, I think let's see how he gets on next year. And then it will be fair to judge. Because it's like, nobody criticizes Latifi. He's slow. But, and that's probably maybe the point that I think Zachariah was making. Like, look, when you compare the two, look who gets the worst criticism. I think there's a talented guy in there, but the discipline might be the thing that irons him out.
And I think it is the discipline. And obviously,
something. Yeah, go on. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry to cut you there, Pete. I think it is the discipline, obviously. And what we also have to bear in mind is this is a Japanese driver where English is not his first language. So, of course, when you're still learning, you're still developing, you're still quite young, you're going to get frustrated. You're not always going to get things right, and it's this.
And what language do AlphaTauri speak as well? Because they've got a French guy running it. They're an Italian team with a French guy running it. And it's like, it could be all kinds of confusion there, So, yeah, and how young is he? He's moved country. He's, we're talking about, there's a lot of things to cater to this, he's not just a Formula One driver. I mean, this is a guy who has more experiences than probably all three of us have put together, depending, And Martin says that Yuki hasn't had a bad season. And I was just looking at the constructors here. He's 14th in constructors, but he's ahead of both Williams. He's ahead of both Alfa Romeos and ahead of both Haas. And you might say he should be. But it's like, he's not too far off Lance Stroll and Seb Vettel, so maybe 20 points behind Vettel. So that's a bit far. But I don't know. I think with Yuki, time will tell. We'll see. We might start praising him a bit later. Well, I don't want to hold you up too long. I'm just want to put through these last comments and then we'll close up. But if you need to shoot, no problem. It's up to you. If you need to shoot, that's fine. Okay. Very, very quickly, let's go through these whilst we close up. Stu MC says, I've always said Lewis would have far more acclaim if he was American. Pretty much a Tiger Woods effect. I think the British press tailcoat off Hamilton and his success and then get ripped in when he loses. Some bold statement there, boy. That's a bold one. What do you guys think on that?
Oh, I don't think the effect would be any different if it was here compared to across the pond, to be honest with you. I don't think, I mean, you can get the same level of treatment. I think, to be honest, I think what Lewis does and how he handles the acclaim on that side, I think he does very well. But I think it could happen here. Tiger Woods gets it here too. I don't, that's a guy who's done extraordinary things in his career, and they find new ways to dig up old dirt on him. And I mean, in this last situation, I know we're here talking about cars, but Tiger Woods drove off a cliff in Cali. So, it's, and then they try to figure out why, and trying to dig in, go into his phone and as to why he did that. So, the guy could have been tired, but
exactly.
It's, I think it's about, look, these guys in our generation, these guys are the best of the best, right? And what we're looking for is, or what the media looks for, is that next spicy story. and what can they sell. And if they can, dig up something on any one of these guys to maybe kind of create a different narrative, then they'll do just that and maybe get them off their game. But these guys are professionals. They've been doing it long enough. I think the way Lewis has been handling whatever hate that he may get, I think he does a great job. He tunes it out, plays it, or creates music, rides a surfboard in Monaco. He's chilling. He ain't thinking about none of this kind of stuff.
Yeah, and Stu's also saying, good point. There's probably always a few vultures in the media, and definitely there is. Don't worry. By the way, George Russell and Norris will get theirs. let's be very clear.
They can't wait to get them down
They're going to get theirs. On a football subject, Jack Grealish all of a sudden has been dating 1, 2, 3 girls, and yet this was the darling of English football. We couldn't wait to see him play in the Euros. And trust me, there is always something, and as Zachariah is saying, it's probably true. Maybe he just was tired. Let's end on this. And this is probably the real reason why the Yuki frustration has come out today, ladies and gentlemen, because he says, Scoop on Football says, I'm probably frustrated because I backed Tsunoda in F1 fantasy game and he's burned me every time I picked him. -4 today.
Scoop on Football. Why? You should have put like Leclerc, or you should have put Sainz on those guys, man.
Do you know what though? Yuki is one of those. It's like it's a good gem. If you can get him in there and he does well, you're laughing.
Yeah.
You're laughing. But do you know how many times I've heard people say every time I put him in, he burns me? The amount of times I've heard that, it's just phenomenal, honestly. Because for qualifying, he must have racked up loads of points, but then the race, it was what it was.
That makes me think of. I'm sure you guys are familiar with Russell Westbrook.
Oh, my guy. That's my guy. I love Russell Westbrook. I love him.
The guy brings intensity every night, but then, he may give you a triple double. He's going to show out, but then he might give you 5 turnovers. So, at the end of the day, look, I completely Scoop. I'm with you. I think Yuki, he's going to be a problem in the coming years. It's just, kind of getting that experience. And when we get that, when we start to see his level of experience increase, I think you'll start getting a return on investment.
Absolutely. With that, people, we're going to end it right there. Guys, thank you so much. I cannot thank you guys enough for coming on the stream today. Big up yourself, Denz. William, lovely to meet you. Lovely to meet you. And love to see
Likewise.
People all over the world communicating with us. My streams are all about you guys. It's to serve you guys. It's to get your guys' thoughts, your comments. I want this to be, whenever a race is finished, I want to talk to somebody about it. And it's not, I don't always get the chance to just go and meet somebody and talk. But the fact that I can meet and communicate with you guys, honestly, it's an absolute blessing. So really, really thank you for jumping on the stream today, jumping in the comment section. You guys have made this an absolute blast. I can't believe it's 2.5 hours. What am I doing?
Flies.
Do you know what I mean? It's absolutely ridiculous. Yeah. But guys, I want to thank you guys, and I guess we'll see you in Saudi Arabia, people. And let this championship continue. And watch out for the coming videos. I've got a few videos coming out this week as well as next week. So yeah, keep it locked, man. With that, people, I say lights out.